Open and make plays, I feel, so I really don't know what frenetic means, I'm not going to lie.
Welcome to SicEm365 Radio.
Up-tempo for Baylor. Ebner straight ahead. Johnson lassoed him from behind, but instead he pushes across for the Bears touchdown.
SicEm365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Brewer to the air. Wide open is Ebner for the easy touchdown. Well, he scored one already on the ground, this time through the air, and the senior from Henderson, Texas. A couple of scores already.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
First down and goal for Baylor, and Brewer over the middle. He has Ebner in for a touchdown.
Have you downloaded the SicEm365 Radio app? Do it today on the App Store and Google Play.
Kickoff from your own 20. Team that scores the 2 points gets it right back, and there goes Ebner. Trestan Ebner in a foot race. Can he do it again? Yes, he can. His second kickoff return for a touchdown tonight. His fourth overall.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. We start this Thursday afternoon. Man, it's a gorgeous day in Central Texas, and every day there seems to be banger news. Yesterday, National Signing Day, and then there was Drew Estrada from Dartmouth who came up with one of the surprise additions to the class of 2021 in December. And then today there's news about Trestan Ebner, possible news about Raleigh Tejada. The state football championship continues up in Arlington. Men's basketball has resumed activities. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina on SicEm365 Radio. We appreciate you being a part of the show today. Craig Smoak, Trestan Ebner was a part of that checklist, right? He was a part of that checklist that, who's going to come back and who's not?
Yeah, he was. He's right there at the top of the list, and I think one of the most important players that you could have coming back. He's apparently coming back. As Colt Barber reported earlier today, Trestan Ebner is, going to be making his way back or staying in Waco and being a part of this team next year. And that's absolutely, huge news. On the same day that he's named the Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Week, the All Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Year. Was also honorable mention or whatever it was, second team, kind of forgetting at this moment as a running back. But point is, he's multifaceted. He's a weapon. He's a great player when he's healthy, and he was great at times this year, and it's going to be great to have him back. He's
the second player, Special Teams Player of the Year, since the award was added in 2005. Punter Daniel Sepulveda, who's been a guest of this show, was announced as the Special Teams Player of the Year in 2006. Jalen Petrie, he made the first team defense as a defensive back. Also second team, R.J. Sneed, wide receiver. Terrell Bernard, despite missing half the year, second team linebacker. William Bradley King, Dylan Doyle, Trestan Ebner, John Mayers, Christian Morgan, Jalen Petrie, J.T. Woods, honorable mention. Petrie was honorable mention. His name was brought up and received votes for also Defensive Player of the Year. Now, one other note involving Raleigh Tejada. Hearing that on Monday it was almost all but done that he was going to leave, that he was headed to at least start the discussions about turning and becoming at least an NFL prospect and entering the NFL. On Wednesday, thanks to inside recruiting from Dave Aranda and Brian Stewart, it appeared as if Raleigh Tejada's mind had changed. I asked Dave Aranda a couple of weeks ago about recruiting his own roster as much as the 2021 class. He didn't like, not the question, he understood and appreciated the question. He just didn't think it was recruiting, but more sitting down, finally having some time with these players. Obviously, Brewer's gone and Levitt's gone. We know that, and a couple of others that trickled away during the year, including Yusuf Terry. But Raleigh Tejada is one that Dave Aranda and Brian Stewart have basically double-teamed. And right now, I would say that there's a really good chance, like 95% chance that Raleigh Tejada who was not a part of the All Big 12, even an honorable mention list, was a surprise. He is probably on his way back. That's not official yet at this particular time. That right there would be another almost addition to the class of 2021, like it is with Trestan Ebner and like it is with anyone else who decides to stay that was a player who made plays this year.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of additions. I mean, the recruits are really the additions, but it's a nice thing to hold on to these guys. And, you know, if Tejada does in fact stay, that answers a big question, because who's your other starting cornerback besides Kalen Barnes next year?
That's a great question. It might be someone you have to get in the transfer portal.
Or it's Mark Milton, who, when we did see him this year, and no disrespect to him, but it was typically on the other end of a highlight reel. I mean, it was. He had his moments more than once of, you know, getting burned or getting beat up, and teams went after him. I mean, teams literally went after Mark Milton at times. So, you know, he's going to be better next year, and a full year of coaching, a full spring and all of that. So I would expect improvement from him. But even then, to know that you've got a guy who is all Big 12 caliber and absolutely should have been named to one of those teams today, total joke that he wasn't. Yeah, that's amazing that to have Barnes and Tejada potentially back as a cornerback duo.
And you saw, at least they threw him into the fire, and they picked on him as well. Zeke Brown, who picked up the interception. There's another young man that's on his way, and it was nice to see. I know he got burned a few times as well. Now, a couple of other notes. Men's basketball has resumed team activities. Their next game is December 21st against Arkansas. What is it?
Pine Bluff.
Pine Bluff. Central Arkansas. Their first conference game now won't be till January 6th because the Texas game, of course, was postponed. When they come back from the Christmas break, everything but the Auburn game, January 30th, is conference games, and that Texas game, of course, will be rescheduled after it was canceled or postponed, on the 13th. Mart Panthers trying to become the 5th team ever to win 4+ in a row state championships. Absolutely stunned last night by Windthorst, and it was weird the way that happened. They were up 21-20 after Windthorst scored in a long 75-yard drive that took 2 fourth down conversions, and they missed the extra point, but Mart jumps off sides. Windthorst goes for 2, and they make it untouched to win 22-21. Shiner won earlier today, separated from post 42-20, and Canadian and Franklin. The Lions are kicking off against Canadian the favorite in that particular game. 254-339-1122. That is the number to call. That is also the text line as well. Your thoughts? What was your reaction when you heard about Trestan Ebner coming back? And what is your reaction about the possibility that it looks very good that Raleigh Tejada is coming back as well? And now you're starting to see how this roster and how this team forms from those who stay, who could leave, and even those who, of course, joined Baylor yesterday. We'll hear from Drew Estrada from Dartmouth, the transfer for Baylor, who played at Argyle High School, in just a moment. So that's good news about men's basketball. They had to sit out. Every day, there's something. Every single day, there's something around. And you think about the week of Baylor. With National Signing Day, okay, everybody does that. Basketball delayed. Not everybody's had to do that, but some have. Then you have the NCAA Infractions Committee on Monday and Tuesday, and Mac Rhodes, who joined us about it yesterday. And then you have the stories about Brewer and Lovett. And then you have the stories about now Ebner and perhaps Tejada, or earlier Xavier Newman. It's every day something's there, plus now they resume activities. That's good news as well. Iowa State dominated, and you would think that's why the Big 12, the all Big 12 team, basically across the board when it comes to Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Newcomer of the Year. This was interesting. Xavier Hutchinson and not Spencer Rattler, the quarterback at Oklahoma.
I mean, that's fair. Spencer Rattler wasn't great. I mean, he was okay. He was good at times, but he wasn't by any means some blow-away dominant quarterback. I think Spencer Rattler is going to be a Big 12 Player of the Year type of guy in the next year or two, but I can see the argument for not, Xavier Hutchinson's pretty good. So, there's other newcomers out there that are pretty good. They don't, necessarily play quarterback. So I'm fine with that. I think it's a little bit too much of a love fest. I think, on defense, Oklahoma has nobody on defense. Nobody.
They played pretty well down the stretch.
Nick Bonito's not on the defensive All Big 12 team. Okay, I guess. I mean, I don't know if voters just aren't watching Oklahoma or they think that they still just only play offense, but their defense is why they're where they are. It's not their offense. And that's not reflected in the Big 12 votes. Raleigh Tejada doesn't make the team. It's almost as if the voters only watched the last game, which was really the only rough game that he had, but they must have only watched that game and not all of the other ones because he is an all Big 12 cornerback. No one throws at him until last week.
And Trevius Hodges-Tomlinson, we saw him at Midway from TCU. He and Morick both make first-team defensive back, the young man from Midway High School who's just a sophomore at TCU. That's good news for him. But Raleigh Tejada not being anywhere, first, second, or honorable mention is rather interesting, and don't think he did not notice that. If, in fact, he does come back, you pin that to your locker, you pin that to the mirror when you brush your teeth, you pin that to your desk, your books, whatever. I'm not saying you got to go crazy with it, but that was a very big surprise that he was not a part of the all Big 12 team in some particular way. Hey, Mike Rose is fantastic. He's great. He's also the one that picked off Charlie Brewer in the end zone. Breece Hall. Is there any argument to him offensive player of the year? He was unbelievable. And then Deuce Vaughn, offensive freshman of the year. And so overall, and then, of course, Matt Campbell, coach of the year as well. Defensive lineman of the year, Baylor would vote by themselves. Darius Stills from West Virginia, Creed Humphrey, offensive lineman of the year from Oklahoma. All right, so when we come, we're going to break here or come back. We'll take a break here. We'll have Drew Estrada. Had a chance to go back and forth with him with text messages, joining us today on SicEm365 Radio. Former Dartmouth and Argyle High School. He's a transfer, signed with Baylor yesterday. Drew Estrada, next on SicEm365 Radio.
At Baylor University, students find their place to shine. They're faithful friends and inspirational leaders. They're championship teammates and independent thinkers. They're on the cutting edge of high tech and in the halls of history. If you want to make the world a brighter place, you can. And if you want to shine in your own way, you can. The spark you need is already inside you. Bring it to Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties and the time with family. Various specials available in-store and online. A variety of steak gift boxes with 4 ribeyes for $70, 4 bacon wrap fillets for $55, or 4 New York strips for $50. It all come with steak butter. Fall snack box for watching a game or wrapping presents or hosting people at your house, including summer sausage, split horn, and jalapeno cheese and salted crackers for only $35. 2 pieces of lobster tails with herb butter and 2 bacon wrap fillets for $60. Order online or call in advance to ensure availability, or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive. Waco Custom Marketplace has a full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. Plus, what you want with pork, poultry, seafood, and more. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Let's face it, some people just like driving around in the nude. Hi, Jay here from Pickup Outfitters to talk about those truck owners that know they have naked trucks but simply don't care. You'll hear them saying something like, I'm just driving around free and easy, nothing constricting me. Gross. But there is something that can entice almost any naked truck owner. Leather. I mean, they kind of go together, right? And Pickup Outfitters is an authorized dealer and professional installer of cat skin leather seats. So I'm asking you to do your part and help us end truck nudity. The next time you're near your naked truck owner friend, you can say something like, you know what would really be sexy on your truck? Leather. And they'll get that sly smile, and you know you've hit them in their weak spot. Pickup Outfitters installs factory matching leather kits or custom kits in just about any color combination for your truck or even car. It's the sexy thing to do. You can be part of the problem, or you can create a commotion with cat skin leather seats at Pickup Outfitters. 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
With your Ram truck from Allen Samuels, you may not have to plow through snow and mud or pull heavy loads, but you could.
During the Big Finish year-end event, you get a Ram deal like no other. Employee pricing for all, 0% for 84, and no payments for 90 days. Ram 1500 Lone Star for Christmas. No other truck comes close. And ask about Big Finish pricing on Ram Heavy Duty and Ram ProMaster for your business. Happy holidays from Alan Samuels.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on SicEm365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, located at the Imperial Drive exit off Loop 340 in Waco. Proud supporters of all Baylor Athletics.
All right, here we go. This 3 o'clock hour. At 4 o'clock today, Hall of Fame baseball writer T.R. Sullivan announced his retirement after many years, 3 decades or so, maybe 4, covering Major League Baseball and the Rangers. He was a guest of the show we had on the radio when we first, back in the early part of this last decade, I guess. Great friend, baseball, crazy good baseball writer. He'll join us today. Also, a little bit later on, we'll focus in on again, to update you on the state championship in football, among other guests, including Mickey Spagnola. And Sam Bradshaw will join us. And former Baylor linebacker and now current La Vega assistant coach Gary Joe Kinney will join us as well. We're now joined by newest member of the Baylor football team, along with others who signed yesterday, former Argyle star and Dartmouth wide receiver, and now Baylor football player Drew Estrada on SicEm365 Radio. Drew, thanks for your time. We appreciate you being a part of the show. So you're on your way back to play in the state where you played so well at Argyle. Can you kind of take us through the process of how you ended up at Baylor?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure. But so it's kind of a long story. But like you said, I started off at Argyle and went to Dartmouth, which is an Ivy League school, so FCS D1 AA school. Played there for 4 years. And my freshman year, I actually was injured, so I got a medical red shirt. Planned to come back this fall and play my last season at Dartmouth, but because of COVID, the season was canceled in the summer, and Dartmouth doesn't allow graduate transfers to play or graduate students to play. So my only option was to graduate transfer. And that's kind of how I got into the transfer portal and kind of put my name out there, and schools kind of started reaching out and went through the whole recruiting process. And, through that process, I ended up at Baylor.
What was it about Baylor that brought you in so much?
Yeah, I think the culture and the family aspect of Baylor, I think, is really unique. Just from the conversations with the staff, I felt like the importance that they stress on the person first and then the player is something that I really like. Coach Aranda is a phenomenal guy and really honest, stand-up person. And for me, the recruiting process was really difficult, because of COVID. I was unable to visit any of the schools that offered me. So it was really all about trust. And at the end of the day, I really felt that with Baylor. And then obviously, an opportunity to come in and compete at the highest level possible, to a team that throws the ball around was a huge pull for me back in my home state. Growing up at playing high school football in Texas, the Big 12 is really the biggest stage. So, for me, it was all about having no regrets moving forward and knowing that I competed at the highest level I could.
So I imagine you talking to George Munoz a lot, and along with Aranda, were there other coaches that you talked to as well?
Yeah, so it was, the offensive staff, so Coach Fedora as well. And we've been kind of talking, here over the past few weeks. They kind of reached out and, got the offer. I guess that was like 2 weeks ago or so. And, just building the rapport and building that relationship, throughout those few weeks. And I really, really felt comfortable with the decision in the end.
And there was the connection, and Grayson had this, I believe, or Colt in the article about you signing with Baylor yesterday. Your father and your mother, did they go to college with Joey McGuire? Is that where all that relationship began?
Yeah, that's correct. I believe they met in college through, the Greek system. I think my mom was sorority sisters with his wife, and then my dad and him were in the same fraternity, I believe. So that's a long relationship before Coach McGuire really got into any of the coaching, and now he's, a Texas legend, coaching legend. So, it kind of goes way back. It's kind of funny.
Is your last statistical game against Brown 14 catches, 193 yards, and 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, that's correct.
Jeez.
It's not bad. Not bad. You know, pretty good day. Pretty good day.
Did you line up?
Yeah,
Did you line up at wide? Did you line up in the slot? Did you line up at times at running back? Because you also had 29 carries, so you got the ball, and they use you a lot. But what is your expectation of how you'll line up in the Baylor offense?
Yeah, I mean, really, like at Dartmouth, I think that was kind of my greatest quality was my versatility. I felt like I could kind of line up really in anywhere, and they kind of did that there with me. I would line up outside, inside, at running back at times. And you know, at Baylor, it's really about, you know, adding the most value I can, whatever the way the coaches want to use me. You know, I'm willing to do so. And so I feel like I can kind of line up in a lot of different positions and create mismatches for the defense. So I think that's kind of, you know, a strong pull for me. And I think that I can create those mismatches on the defensive side.
Was Baylor a part of your recruiting process when you left Argyle?
They were not, no.
Okay. All right.
Who? I mean, other than Dartmouth, who were your
You don't want to know.
I don't want to know?
Go ahead. Go ahead and tell him.
I want to know.
No, I'm talking about other than Baylor first. Who was your choices other than Baylor leaving Dartmouth?
Leaving Dartmouth, so I had, I mean, it really came down to, like, I had, like, TCU, SMU, Florida State. Duke actually offered me kind of last minute. So, you know, and then there were some other schools in the mix, too.
Well,
so it just kind of sorry, go ahead.
Well, Drew, you made the second best choice you could have made.
No,
I work for a Baylor website, so you made the first best choice. I'm a Florida State grad. So.
Florida State grad. And thank God we didn't connect you guys beforehand, because Lord knows what Paul would have dribbled all over you, man.
I was curious about, like, because I'm curious about your journey from, you know, how you Ivy League to you know, from Argyle. Where were your, outside of Dartmouth, where were your choices?
So out of high school, you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was really, I had a lot of Ivy League schools, and early on, I didn't really know anything about the Ivy League. I was trying to go big time schools, and when I didn't get a ton of looks from bigger schools, it was, you know, like the North Texas and Texas States of the world, and then I started looking into Ivy League, and I was like, well, you know, if I'm going to go play, I mean, at a smaller school, I might as well try to get, like, a really good education while I'm at it, and so I kind of started doing my research on that end, and it turned out to be a really good fit, and obviously worked out, you know, really well for me in the end. And having this opportunity was directly because I went to Dartmouth. So, but it ended up working out.
So how excited are you to get back to Texas and play in the Big 12? I mean, is that something that you dreamed about doing at all? Or is that, you know, even if you didn't, I mean, just how cool is that to go from Ivy League to now playing, you know, Power 5 and getting to see, you know, UT and Texas Tech and all the rest?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something. Growing up as like a little kid, kind of like I said, is like you just dream of playing in the Big 12. And, you know, when I went to Dartmouth, I obviously didn't have that in mind. I was kind of like, okay, this is where I'm going to end my college career. And so coming back to Texas, playing at the biggest stage and being close to home, that's a huge thing for me, being able to play in front of my friends and family, where, you know, Dartmouth's over 2,000 miles away. So it's kind of hard for, you know, family and friends to travel up for a game, you know, during the fall. So hopefully, you know, this coming fall, I'll be able to, you know, play in front of, you know, all my friends and family who haven't been able to watch me play since high school, basically. So I'm really excited about that.
Can you tell me what it's like to receive an invitation to an Ivy League school? I never got one of those in the mail. How does that go? I mean, obviously you have to have some academic, elite. Yeah. How does that go, Drew? Because I never had that happen.
Right. So it's for athletes, it's a combination of the academic and athletics. So first of all, they don't even really look at you unless you have the academic requirements, which are pretty, you know, I guess more rigorous than your typical school, obviously. So it's a pretty complicated system, but they have like a certain amount of spots and they divvy it up based on your academic performance on tests and your GPA. And so that combined with how bad they want you as a athlete is kind of how you get your invitation to go there. So it's kind of a complicated process, but there is like a certain threshold that you need to meet academically to even be considered to go to the school.
I would think it's kind of like going to one of the academies, except maybe even another notch up, although the academies is great to be a part of. We've talked to players who have been recruited and eventually signed with either Navy, Army, or perhaps Air Force as well. Drew Estrada is with us on SicEm365 Radio, signed yesterday with Baylor.
So, Drew, it's been a long time since they didn't play this year. It's been a long time since you played an actual game. Do you need a refresher on the rules of football or anything that we can walk you through? I know you went to Dartmouth, so we're not going to help you too much in that regard.
I hope not. It's actually funny that you say that, because this has been the first time in 4 years that I've actually been able to watch college football, because usually I'm playing on Saturdays. So it's actually been kind of cool to watch some of the big time games. But yeah, no, that's definitely one thing that's been through my mind, that I've been kind of just grinding the whole fall, just to make sure that I'm prepared. Because you're right, I haven't played it, and it'll be a full year. So that's something that's been on my mind, but it's an interesting deal. I never thought that that's kind of how my time at Dartmouth fit in, but I'm lucky to have this opportunity.
I bet you're feeling pretty healthy though, right? With all that time on, probably the best you felt in a few years.
Yeah, the body's feeling pretty good, pretty fresh.
So
I'm taking a lot of hits.
Yeah, sorry about that. So do you know anybody on the Baylor roster? Did you happen to play against some of these guys, or come into contact with anybody that you're aware of on the Baylor roster?
So no, I've actually tried to go through the roster to see if I know any guys, and I'm guessing some of the guys that have played there in the past aren't on the team anymore, just because I'm an older guy. I had a buddy that I went to high school with, Ty Smith. He walked on there and he played on there for a couple of years. So he's kind of been reaching out to me and helping me out a little bit, as far as trying to get me introduced to some guys and get me acquainted a little bit. So, yeah, we'll get excited for that, though.
We mentioned earlier today Trestan Ebner, who's kind of a Swiss Army knife like you are, and is coming back for another year. We just got news as well that William Bradley King, who transferred in from Arkansas State, is going to enter the NFL draft. So there's a lot of moving parts right now. What are your thoughts, Drew, about this transfer? You, of course, a grad transfer, but the transfer, the way the NCAA has opened up the floodgates.
Yeah, it's really interesting how it's kind of evolved. And I think that, a lot of teams are kind of having to adapt to the transfer market. There's a lot of teams that probably traditionally wouldn't go after transfer guys, but because the market is so flooded and there's such talent there, I think teams do have to start adapting to kind of get up to speed with what's happening in the college football world. So it's kind of crazy. And when I entered the portal, I didn't really know what to expect, and there's a lot of movement and a lot of stuff going on for sure. So it's really interesting kind of how that's evolved over the years.
How fast did your phone ring when you put your name in and all that stuff, and then how long did you have to wait before coaches started calling you?
Yeah, to be honest, it wasn't like what you would expect. It took a week or two for coaches to start contacting me. And I really think that it really came down to getting the film in front of them. It was a matter of them watching the film. It wasn't, trying to reach out to them. It was if they were going to watch the film or not. And once I kind of got, those first few offers, then my name kind of got out there, and it kind of had a trickle down effect from there. But I kind of expected, a similar thing to when I would go in and immediately be like, okay, people are contacting you, but it takes some time for them to kind of get yourself out there and get notarized.
So what's kind of the plan for you? I mean, as far as arriving in Waco, getting settled in, all of that, what's kind of your calendar looking like?
Yeah, so I haven't had like a specific date given to me yet, but my whole plan to this whole thing was to be a mid-year transfer. So come in, I guess, this spring term and get going with workouts and start trying to learn the system as soon as possible, because I only have 1 year. So it'd be kind of it'd be really difficult for me to come in, even in the summer, and try to kind of pick up on things. So I'm coming in as soon as possible, when I guess in like a month or so, in January, and getting down there and moving in and starting to learn the system and get comfortable.
Larry Fedora was the head coach, as you know, at North Carolina. He's been at Southern Miss, Oklahoma State. He's been a lot of places. He was an analyst at Texas after he was at North Carolina, now Baylor the first year. I saw a note that when he was at North Carolina, Ryan Switzer, who the Cowboys drafted, is kind of that slot receiver like a Wes Welker or a Julian Edelman or a Cole Beasley. But I saw you, man. You've got some guns. You're a pretty big, thick kid. A young man, excuse me. What position? You said you could be played along, but is slot receiver? You're not just tied into being a slot receiver, are you?
I mean, I don't think I am, but like I said, I'm really there for wherever they want me to be at. I think that, at Dartmouth, I played outside and inside. I think I have the capability to run both types of routes. I think I have the capability to get off press coverage, which is, what outside receivers have to do a lot. And I think I have the capability to run the inside routes and make the reads that you need to make and adjustments for the inside guy. So, I mean, I'm not going to limit myself to outside or inside at this point. It's really, up to them and what they see me as. And after that, then, go put in the work and, make myself the best player I can be.
Well, what's the most important thing is the fact you signed with Baylor yesterday, but who's going to win that game? Argyle playing tomorrow night for a state championship against Lindale. By the way, you're about to be a teammate with the unbelievable running back Jordan Jenkins at Lindale, who scored like 50 touchdowns for them. So you got to root against him for one game and then be a teammate with him in about 2 or 3 weeks.
That's right. No hard feelings for him, but I have to go. I have to go with my Argyle Eagles. Shout out to those guys. They're killing it this year. Coach Rogers has done a great job with those guys, and I think that I'm pretty sure they're going to win. I'm not going to, make any crazy calls, but they've been looking really strong throughout the playoffs, and so good luck to those guys tomorrow. That'll be a big game. Yeah,
well, actually, he's not going to be here till the summer. He told me that he's going to join.
He'll still be teammates.
But he'll be teammates, yeah, immediately.
Okay.
Yeah, yesterday you were teammates. Drew, are you able to enjoy now your life with all the stuff that's been going on and not being able to play? We've been through all the last year. It's been crazy for the last 9 months or so. Are you enjoying yourself? Are you able to kind of take a deep breath and soak it all in?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially now that I know where I'm going to end up, next year. It's definitely, taking a lot of stress off my back, and now I can kind of focus to getting to work. And now, as far as COVID goes, hopefully they get that vaccine out and things look pretty normal next fall, and we, have full stadiums and all that stuff. So I feel really good about it.
Who did you call when you said you were going to sign with Baylor? Was that kind of like when you signed? Of course, it's a little bit different, as you mentioned, with the Ivy League. Was there a specific? You talked about those who recruited you. Was there a specific call, and what was the reaction?
Yeah, so I called Coach Munoz just because he's been the one that I've kind of been in contact the most throughout the recruiting process, and they were obviously really pumped about it. And he was in the office, so he just kind of relayed the phone to, Coach Fedora, Coach Aranda. And, I was really excited. Obviously I was excited and they were pumped. So, it was a lot of fun and I was really happy about it and they were too. So it was all good stuff.
You have not yet cut a pass for Baylor, but there's already somebody that listens to our show, Leon, that said, I want at some point an autographed jersey from Drew Estrada. You've already made an impression.
All right. That's good. That's good.
All right, man. Thanks for your time, Drew. Congratulations. We appreciate it. We'll see you probably in about a month.
Great, guys. Appreciate it.
Drew Estrada from Argyle High School. He was phenomenal. And then, of course, put up some big numbers. How about his last game? 14 catches, 193 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then didn't get to play. There's a lot of teams that didn't get to play. Some played late. Some didn't get to play at all. And that's
and the Ivy League's not going. Are they going to play in the spring, or are they not going to play at all?
I have no idea.
I don't think they're going to play at all.
I have no idea. Yeah. And so that's Drew Estrada, the part of the surprise. The surprise yesterday. There were no disappointments. There was a couple that Baylor was in on that they were hoping maybe to get a late decision to add. But all 17 who committed signed. That was documented all day yesterday. And then there was the note about Drew Estrada, who now is a part of the Baylor wide receiving corps. All right, coming up at 3:30, we'll update you on that game. Franklin and Canadian in 3A Division Division 2. Yes, 3A Division 2. Last night, Mart was beaten. Earlier today, Shiner beat Post 42-20. And this is SicEm365 Radio.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recalled drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com, principal office in Houston, Texas.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Come see us at the new Baylor Scott and White Ted and Sue Getterman Sports and Orthopedic Center. Trust the doctors at Baylor Trust, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
The holidays are here, and I have a simple question for you. Will you weigh as much more or less than you do right now when the holidays are over? Why not end the year in better shape than when you started and create momentum for 2021? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness has numerous options for stocking stuffer gifts with gift cards for gym or tennis membership, fitness merchandise, tanning, massage, tennis lessons, and personal training. Perhaps a gift for a client, a family member, or a friend. You just need to walk through the front door to change your life. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. Spacious, clean workout room, free weights, Cybex cardio equipment, and no intimidation. A tremendous camaraderie and family atmosphere. So get the best and healthiest Christmas gift you can for someone or yourself. It's time to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio.
The SicEm365 Radio app is sponsored by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
A couple of notes about Drew Estrada. Last year, 222 yards rushing. He had the one touchdown. 51 catches, 827 yards, scored 8 touchdowns. Three times he had 2 in a game. And then he also had a punt return, 87-yard punt return in their win against Columbia. Drew Estrada, part of the weapons now, as Baylor compiles a bunch of different weapons of skill people, including those who are incoming freshmen from the class of 2021. All right, the number to call is 254-339-1122. Your thoughts about the day after signing day. And also, maybe because of 2-7, maybe because of a first-year head coach, maybe because at times you didn't quite understand decision-making or what they were doing. I'll tell you right now, don't underestimate what Dave Aranda and his staff are doing right now to try to keep the core of that team that could bolt. You remember back in 2016 that there were people that were stolen away, basically, because of what happened with Pepper Hamilton. But also, there were others that left. Jarrett Stidham, the biggest of the names that left. And then there were others eventually that left when Matt Rule arrived. You can have attrition. I've got to tell you, I thought there would be 10 or 12. I just, initially, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I thought maybe there'd be 10 or 12. And there still might be when you add those who have left and then add Lovett and Brewer. But if they can keep some of the guys like Ebner, they've done that. If they can keep Tejada, they hope to do that.
and then a couple of others. Bernard, because of the fact he also has to face the recovery and rehab, if they can do that, and then add a couple more that might have an opportunity to leave, hey, it's pretty good. It's not just the National Signing Day class, but that is the future. But right now, the current present is who we could also keep that played and made plays for Baylor on occasion the last 2 to 3 or 4 years.
I think one of the most interesting things that Mack Rhoades said yesterday during an interview was that going forward, just based on how it's trending, is that there's going to have to be a coach on staff whose job is essentially to be roster management, which sounds to me like a general manager. I mean, that's going to have to be
caps are.
Yeah. And so you're going to have somebody that's like, because after this year, when 2021 is over and 2022 starts, you're going to have to say, okay, well, how many of these guys do we want to keep that still have eligibility? So does that affect how many freshmen we're going to bring in? So say we want to bring in 25 freshmen, but that means we're going to have to send 7 guys away, 7 guys who can play college football, just not for us anymore. Then you got to move them off, and it's going to be tough. I mean, you're going to need a roster czar. You're going to need somebody who, gets alerts and says, oh, look, Drew Estrada's in the transfer portal. Yeah. Let me get on that right away.
Well, they have people monitoring that, obviously, football operations and, various people who are doing that. But, yeah, it's going to have to be yet another addition to the budget. Or do you have to alleviate something else to get to that addition? Because that's not a person that's going to make $25,000 a year. That's going to be a very important position. It's like your player personnel director in many, many ways. Canadian 14, Franklin nothing. They're in the second quarter. Canadian 14, Franklin nothing in that championship game going on at AT&T Stadium. In that Shiner game earlier today in the win against Post, and they were favored. That game was very close. But in that game, Doug Brooks, who wears number 1, is a 265-pound player. He fumbled from Post, and as he's running towards the end zone, he hands the ball off to a teammate right behind him, so he gets credit for the touchdown. He scored a bunch, you can imagine. He recovered a block punt for a touchdown. He had a fumble return that led to a touchdown. He scored, I think, on a rushing touchdown. I know he had a highlight reel where he pushed a couple of people down. Poor kid's going to be on SportsCenter tonight that he stiff-armed, but they win the game 42-20. How about that? That he scored so many times, he said, hey, you take it. Good for you. I thought that was a great moment.
It was very selfless and a very cool moment, I'm sure, for the other player. I don't know what his name was, but, yeah, I mean, got to be shocking to be in a state title game, and you're watching your teammate go run into the end zone and good thing you were trailing him, because otherwise you wouldn't have been handed that football. So I think that's really cool, really selfless, and I'm sure there's some college scouts out there right now going like, who's this kid? And they see a moment like that, and that makes them like him even more because he's not selfish, and he had every right to be selfish. He intercepted the ball and was running into the end zone, and he just randomly turned around and handed it to his teammate right before he crossed the goal line. So you don't see that very often.
There was also a moment when they brought a player from the sideline. Franklin just scored on a long run. It's 14-7 just into the second quarter. Late in the game, Paul, 2 players went over to the sideline, picked up number 55, was an offensive lineman who had been hurt, who could not play. He had a boot on, a cast on, in fact, his leg, brought him over to the offensive line, and he was there for the last couple of snaps of the game so he could be a part of that particular championship game in a way. Although he couldn't play, he was a part of those last couple of snaps because the game was over.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine, my team in high school, we didn't get close. I mean, my freshman year, the team went to the state championship and lost. And so when that happens, you think that, okay, well, when I'm a senior, we're going to do that too. Like, that's exactly what we'll do. But that's not the realism of the situation. And so then when you hit it and you're a senior and we lost in the first playoff game, I remember thinking, well, I'll never get to have that feeling. And not many people do get to have that feeling. So to make sure that he does and doesn't feel heartbroken that he didn't get to participate and he had to watch, I mean, that's really awesome. Because, you can just sit there the whole life and you have that state championship ring, but in like the pit of your stomach, you're like, man, I didn't even get to take a snap in that game.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. That's the cool thing that Texas high school football shows every year when they, have this kind of national, semi-national stage, because there are people out there with satellite who have, Fox Sports Southwest across the country that will watch these games because, hey, it's high-level high school football, and it's pageantry that I think has become really overdone, quite frankly. I think that kind of the corporate, I don't know, this is going to be, I don't want to get into a long rant, but I think it's almost become too polished and too, I don't know what the word I'm searching for is, but it's like the stories are there. We don't need to like hit on the same like cliches all the time, you know? And I feel like that's what we do. We're like, hey guys, welcome into the, it's very cliche and yet, you know, despite that, that's a minor annoyance. I love them. It's great. It's great the rest of the country in many cases gets to watch them and see the high level talent. It's great for these coaches who, you know, are sitting in their offices right now, fresh off signing day, or perhaps at home, and they're watching, you know, guys that maybe they're like, oh, wait a second, who's that kid? And we need to go look into him, or who's that guy throwing that block? And so there's a lot of good that comes from it. And of course, most of all, just the town pride and everything like that. So pretty cool deal.
T.R. Sullivan, who covered the Rangers for decades, will join us at 4. One of the stories of interest that came down has been that Major League Baseball is now going to merge the history of the Negro Leagues into Major League Baseball's history. This is going to be interesting. Could get a little complicated because of the records. Now, Josh Gibson, Satchel Paige, names that are Ray Dandridge, some of the great names in Negro League Baseball history. Their statistics are now going to be a part of Major League Baseball history. I don't know the exact number, but Josh Gibson had, I think, over 800 home runs in the Negro Leagues. I also know that Henry Aaron, the great Hammer and Hank Aaron, who was the all-time home run leader when he broke Babe Ruth's record, and then Barry Bonds broke his record, Willie Mays, among others, they were a part of the Negro Leagues for a short amount of time before they entered Major League Baseball. Those statistics, if you add them in, changes some of the all-time list, even if some of those guys were already on some of the all-time list. It'll be interesting to see how people gravitate to it, accept it, and also how it merges. Depending on how many games in a season. In baseball, this is just off the top of my head forever. I don't know it now. But you had to have at least 502 official plate appearances. This is from something ingrained in my head. To win the batting title. 502 official plate appearances. That means you could have 100 walks and 402, official at bats. But I believe it was 502. I don't know if that's still the case. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that based on how many games were played in some of the regular seasons in the Negro Leagues. This is an interesting twist and something that's going to be really intriguing in how they do it. We'll ask T.R. Sullivan a little bit about that today at 4.
Josh Gibson's problem is that he played like different leagues, and like some of them, the statistics weren't really kept all that well. So they believe he hit more than 800 home runs. They don't have the exact statistics on Josh Gibson. What it does mean, though, and I was wrong when I talked to you earlier today, if you take the ones that we know Hank Aaron hit that were statistically, in the record books, he's now the champion again. Willie Mays only has 17 more hits from the Birmingham Barons in 1948. But even still, that's 17 more hits. That puts him over 3,300, and that moves him up the list of all-time hits. Not that Willie Mays in particular needed to be, but it shows you, like, this was a time where the best, some of the best athletes were not playing the sport. I think that's one of the things that had to make you feel really dumb if you were a racist and you liked sports, when you finally realized, like, oh, my team could be better if I opened up my view on who's allowed to play. Like, oh my gosh, I have a bigger talent pool to draw from?
Well, typically people who are racist aren't the smartest people,
I know,
Paul,
but like,
so.
Yeah, exactly, but it just, or if you just had that old-fashioned, you didn't know any better, which I think was, I think that most of the world was like that. They just came up in a world that was like, this was separate and that was separate.
Which we don't acknowledge in any way nowadays. We just pretend like everybody had Twitter back in 1910 and they knew everything about everything. That's one thing I really dislike is yes, there are wrongs from the past that need to be corrected, but we paint people from 100 years ago with the same brush as the one we're painting with right now, and it's not even close to being similar.
All right, here's what I would tell. If anybody wants to do that, like you're saying, paint people with the same brush, let's invent a time machine. Let's not show them the time machine. Let's go back 100 years, and let's show them a keyboard on a computer from 1981 and watch their minds melt.
Yeah.
So if that's going to freak them out, then, people lived in small communities then. Even in big cities, people lived in their neighborhood. They didn't venture outside their neighborhood all that much because everything they needed was right there. They worked at a factory in this neighborhood and they got their fish at the fish market on a block away. And then if you lived in a small town, your small town was your whole world. Yeah. It was the people that were in that small town. And so then when you saw something different, your first initial thing is, well, what did you hear from your family about what this meant? Well, if they had bad information and can just pass it on to you, then that's what you got. So let's give people the benefit of history and education, because if we didn't have that, we would still think that the sun revolves around the earth and that the earth was flat and the moon was made of cheese.
Oh, Kyrie Irving still believes the earth is flat. So
does Jennifer Smoak.
Yeah, that's still an issue. She really doesn't, but we like to mess with her. Kyrie Irving actually does, and yeah.
I said Josh Gibson had 800 and some career home runs. I don't know that for sure. I do know that the box scores, the semi-pro box scores, said he had 75 home runs in 1931 and 69 in 1934. But overall, they have him for a little over 230 career home runs. But what you're going to have to do is almost piece by piece box scores. What games were validated? What games were actually a part of a league that was accredited? And then also what was just playing games anywhere you could play them. And unfortunately, that was also what had to happen. So it'll be interesting to merge those numbers. As you mentioned, May 17 more hits. But Henry Aaron would have more home runs because of his time in the Negro Leagues compared to just what he finished with. What did you tell me, Paul, 62 or whatever it was when Bonds broke the record eventually a little bit later on.
And Gibson the one thing that we will know about him is that there'll only be one person in career average ahead of Gibson, and that is Ty Cobb. So Ty Cobb at 367, Josh Gibson at 365. I think this is great. And I'm working on, I sent a call and email to the Negro League Baseball Museum. I'm trying to get one of their people on tomorrow to talk about what this means. If you've been to Kansas City and you haven't been to the Negro League Baseball Museum, you need to go. And if you're planning a trip to Kansas City, make sure you include that in if you're a baseball fan. It's excellent. It's awesome.
Buck Leonard, Monty Irvin, who ended up playing, I think, with the Giants. In fact, he was on the team with Bobby Thompson's shot heard around the world. Cool Papa Bell. Some of these names will be interesting to see how they merge with what is going on with Major League Baseball and the record book. And it's not going to just happen overnight. It's going to take some time, almost like needle in a haystack in some particular way.
Did it take everything that's occurred over the last year for baseball to finally do this, or was there something else that precipitated them actually revisiting this all these years later?
No, it's a great question, and we'll ask TR about it. I don't know his stance on it or where he.
It's not a stance. It's whether or not this is. And it's not even all that. I'm just curious of why the push now. That's all I'm asking. And so maybe it was precipitated by kind of the awakening of some in this country over the last year, or I don't know. For all I know, MLB's got made a concerted directive to hey, we need to do a better job of this. So that's what I'm curious about.
Probably some 50 years after it was brought up the first time is probably what you're saying. Yeah. Because I'll tell you this, Mike.
It's like when John McClain comes on here and he's talking about senior guys. It's like he played in the 40s. If he's not a Hall of Famer by now, I'm sorry, but he's probably not a Hall of Famer. So it's what changes,
he was, but right. Because of the way things were. Here's what I know.
And I'm all for this, by the way. I want to make that clear.
Texas High School Football Hall of Fame, when we sit there and meet, and we will sit there and discuss the Prairie View League, which we have discussed Joe Green, Ken Houston, among some of the great names in high school football, and including and making sure that they're included. We've had a guy on, a writer, that wrote a book about the PVIL, and it's huge. It's important, and it does need to look. You need to look closer.
Deion's bringing back some of that.
Huh?
Deion's bringing back some of that attention with
he's
Jackson
trying
State.
to.
Or attempting to. Yeah.
And it would be great if it works. If he's successful, that's fantastic. It'd be absolutely fantastic. By the way, Tyler Bolden today on Valium, running the mothership here at SicEm365 Radio. Armstrong Sims with the day off. Couple of notes before we hit the hour. We'll have TR at 4. The Army Air Force game. Remember, there's a little bad blood with that this year. Will be played at Globe Life Field. Not where they're playing high school games, or they've played some. They're playing it at the new stadium, Rangers Globe Life Field, next year. Army Air Force will be the first game played, or their game will be played at Globe Life Field, the first college game held at that facility. And then I saw this from the Waz family. Chance Waz, who passed away on Sunday, the former Baylor safety. Sunday, December 20th at 3 o'clock. Now, some of you listening, we're obviously broadcasting from Central Texas. We're from coast to coast, from L.A. to Atlanta and everywhere else in between, with some of you that call us from all over the country. We appreciate you listening and calling and being a part of it as well. The Waz family is going to have a balloon release to celebrate and remember Chance Waz on Sunday, December 20th at Hendrickson High School at the football stadium at 3 o'clock Sunday afternoon. What they're going to do is release balloons in the air, bring additional balloons and markers, messages to Chance. That's Sunday, 3 o'clock at Hendrickson High School in Pflugerville from the football stadium, 3 o'clock, and that's a really cool deal. You could put a note on, if you want, on the balloon and let it sail. And hopefully Chance Waz will be a part of that at some point.
And you about destroyed Mac with that question to end things yesterday. Had him go back to listen to that and recap it. It's up on the site now in case you missed Mac Rhodes. But it's like, hey, NCAA, and hey, here's cancellations, and hey, here's you lost your last game, and hey, and there were positives like National Signing Day, but then when you asked him about Chance Waz, it's like the air was out of the balloon. Yeah. I mean, like for all of us when we heard the news, Yeah,
and his answer was what you heard and what you've heard from so many people, whether coaches, teammates, players, and also much more. When we come back, T.R. Sullivan, Hall of Fame writer, on his career. He's retiring, and on baseball in general and the story about the Negro Leagues. And this is SicEm365 Radio. Don Humidor, a great place to get some Christmas shopping done. Stocking stuffers, bag of fresh coffee beans, maybe a handful of cigars, a sleeve of cigars. They've got plastic sleeves if you want to put in 2, 3, 4 cigars for a stocking stuffer, or a gift if you want to wrap up a full box of cigars. And then there's the CBD products. If you like or struggle and you want to have a better way of falling asleep, they have Vitadream CBD that allows you to take a part of a gummy, whatever you want to bite into, and then all of a sudden you fall asleep a lot easier and you don't toss and turn. There are dozens of great names of cigars, and Don Humidor has the entire effect of what you need when it comes to Christoph, Macanudo, Monte Cristo, Cohiba, Rocky Patel, Ashton, Alec Bradley, Hiram and Solomon, My Father, Padron, on and on. Romeo and Juliet, I might have mentioned that one. If I didn't, I should. It's filled, their 48-foot walk-in humidor, with the best when it comes to cigars. And then Carol and Ashley are cigar aficionados. They'll help you out. And they are doing an incredible job, also making sure they keep up with the hottest trends. The Cuatro Nicaragua from My Father. Yep, they have that as well. That's the #1 cigar of the year. It's Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Engel at the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio.
Boy, this ball is hammered. A soaring blast way up in the home run porch. Oh, my!
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We will hear from Hall of Fame writer, baseball writer, and a friend of the show, T.R. Sullivan, many years. I've got some stories about when I first ran into T.R. Sullivan as just a young pup in radio trying to cover Rangers at Port Charlotte at training camp in the locker room. He's doing an interview. He's getting some notes. He's trying to get something from a player. And I walk up next to him off the left shoulder, and I interrupt him asking a player, might have been Kevin Brown, and I got the glare from T.R. Sullivan. And then I got a little bit of a kind of like, okay, here's how the locker room works. Great friend of the show, was a part of many weekly segments with us, and he's retiring, and that's sad but happy for him. Joins us on SicEm365 Radio. Why now, T.R.?
David, you and I were never young pups.
I love that. Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right.
I mean, I've only been doing this for 32 years.
I know, but I loved every 32 years you covered baseball. It won't be the same. So why now, TR? Why is it you're hanging up the cleats, so to speak?
Because I can. I mean, look. I love baseball, but Elvis Andrus is the oldest player on the team. He's 30 years younger than me. It gets tougher each year. The travel, hanging out in the clubhouse, and making phone calls and chasing stories. And, there's only so many stories you can break, and there's only so many times you can get beat on a story. I mean, you can always watch baseball. 7 o'clock is going to be there whether I'm there or not, and I can sit back and, one of the things, David, I'd really like to do in retirement is sit on my back porch, seriously, and just listen to a full game on the radio with Eric Nadel and Brad Sham. I think that would just be godly. Matt Hicks. Oh my Lord, that's how old I am. With Eric Nadel and Matt Hicks, and just listen to them on the radio, because I had to listen to them last year during the pandemic because we were watching on TV, and sometimes I turn on the radio broadcast. Nothing against the TV guys; it was a change of pace. And I love Dave Raymond and Tom Grieve and C.J. Nitkowski. But I just want to listen to the radio, and they were great. Eric Nadel is a legend for a reason, and Matt Hicks is also outstanding. So I think it'd just be cool to sit out on the back porch and hang out and just listen to the game on the radio.
Boy, that would be a dream, huh? Wouldn't that be fun, just to not have to worry about covering it, just watch it, enjoy it?
Yeah.
TR, do you have a favorite moment from your career that stands out?
I remember. Yes, I do. The answer to your question is yes, and it was in that picture. It's in that picture that I had on Twitter yesterday. When the ballpark Arlington opened in 1994. We'd gotten back from spring training. You know, we'd all taken construction tours, but this is the first time I'd been in the ballpark when it was in full operation. So I put my stuff in the press box, and I walked down to you guys know the concourse, and I walked down that tunnel that leads from the clubhouse to the dugout, and I walked down through the opening there, the portal or the doorway, whatever you call it, and into the dugout and looked at that ballpark for the first time. It was a morning in April, and there was a haze, a morning golden haze. It was a day game. There was a golden morning haze, and it just looked so beautiful. I was so taken aback by my first full view of the ballpark in Arlington. And, that right there, I don't think I'll ever forget that.
TR, I've not known this, and so I'm curious to ask you here, how did your baseball journey start?
Well, I grew up in the military, and we traveled around the country. My dad was a huge baseball fan. He was from Boston. And in 1967, when the Red Sox won the pennant, Carl Yastrzemski won the Triple Crown of the famous Impossible Dream, I was 8 years old. And I just got caught up with it with my parents and became a huge baseball fan. And, you know, everywhere we went in the minor leagues or in the military, we'd go to minor league towns, Honolulu, Hawaii, Fort Ord, California, Montgomery, Alabama, and I watched minor league baseball. I loved it. And, I was just a big baseball fan growing up. And then, I went to college and started working on the school newspaper and just decided that I wanted to work in journalism. My first job was at the Denison Herald up there on the Texas Red River border. And after 4 years there, I got a fantastic opportunity to go to the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. And eventually they liked what I did and put me out on the Rangers beat.
Well, I remember, I'll tell you what, what was it? Was it the 666 Club in Port Charlotte, the shuffleboard and all the things we could do after you covered a game that night, and then you go and have a couple of cold ones and enjoy it?
It wasn't the 666. You're going to get us in trouble. You're going to get us in trouble. We'll never go to a Baylor game again. It was the 776 Club. Yes, it was right down the street from the ballpark in our condos, and it was a great little roadhouse. So we used to go in there, drink beer, shoot shuffleboard or pool or wherever we wanted to do. Lord have mercy, David.
I'm trying to get you into retirement. I'm turning purple here on the camera, by the way, because I missed that up so much. TR, do you think the ballpark should have stayed? I know they have this new glitz and glamour. What was that kind of hard for you when they built the new one?
We could sit there and talk about the political ramifications, and we could talk about, what's the best use of taxpayer monies. Obviously, we all know that. I think it was pretty obvious. The ballpark in Arlington, they made so many changes to it from the original design. I think that hurt it. That ballpark was not supposed to be a home run park. It was never supposed to be a home run park. But the problem with the ballpark in Arlington is they made so many changes to it, and then they gave up the ability to play day games because there's a long story about why they don't play night games, as many night games, and the fans want air conditioning and climate control. I mean, that's obvious. Is it worth it? I don't know. You can debate it, but one of the problems is, and boy, is this franchise jinxed, because if you remember when the ballpark opened in 1994, we had the players' strike and they cut short the season. And in 1972, they were supposed to open home, and there was another players' strike, and now we got this thing. People ask me about what I think of Globe Life Field, the new ballpark, and I tell them I'm not going to judge it until I see it filled with fans. I'd love to see it filled with fans and all the bells and whistles and all that. Then we'll really see how great of a ballpark it is. But I hear great things about the clubhouses and stuff like that.
TR, I'm sure you've done this, but will it be weird to just walk into a ballpark and sit, on the third base side and not have to write anything?
I think it'd be great. I've done that a little bit. I mean, I've gone up to Frisco. I don't live very far from the Frisco ballpark. I've gone up there and watched games, and it's great. And, in spring training, occasionally I've been able to go to a game that I'm not covering. And, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun. That'll definitely be fun.
TR, who were your favorite, or if you had an overall favorite, but who was your favorite player or players to interview over the years or get to know?
You know, there are thousands of them, and Elvis. I'm telling you, Elvis Andrus is one of the greatest people I've ever met. I can go on about so many of those players that are close friends of mine: Rusty Greer, Mark McLemore, Elvis, and everything. But I'm going to bring up Elvis just from the simple fact that he's still on the team. He's going through a tough time. He's lost his job at shortstop for Isaiah kind of Falefa, although, Elvis may end up being the third baseman, just like Michael did. Michael Young did. So I just right now, if somebody's going to ask me who my favorite players, I feel like giving a shout out to Elvis Andrus because what he's meant to this ball club, how great he was to the media, how great he was to our Durrett Foundation, him and Derek Holland, and I got to bring up Derek Holland. He was outstanding as well. A lot of those guys. Nelson Cruz was fabulous to our foundation. Michael Young, obviously. But right now, I'm just going to say Elvis Andrus has been great for this franchise, and I hope this franchise appreciates him as he winds down his career.
Yeah, so close to being a part of a World Series championship as so many others were as well. I knew this, that every time, and I haven't been the last 3 or 4 years, but every time I'd go to a Rangers training camp, from the time that Elvis Andrus arrived, I knew that sometimes it would be push, pull, whatever, and tug on getting an interview with the player. I always knew that I would get whatever I needed as far as time for an interview with someone like Elvis Andrus. So I appreciate you saying that. And watching he and Adrian Beltre, Paul, we went to training camp so many times. Those two guys were like kids, just two kids on a little league ballpark having fun together. The story that came out this week, TR, about the Negro Leagues merging, or at least baseball now accepting the Negro Leagues and their history. How do you think this is going to work? Will their records just morph into baseball? How does that work?
I think there's going to be a lot of study on that because the Negro Leagues obviously weren't as well kept as far as records and statistics and things like that. There's no question those guys are great players. There are no question those guys are great players, and they need to be recognized as major league players because they were competing against some of the finest baseball players in the game ever. Satchel Paige, Josh Gibson, and I think they're slowly they've been over the years they've become to be recognized as Hall of Famers. But now I think, hopefully they're being recognized as major league players because there's still some guys who had late starts to their career. Minnie Minoso, I don't know if you know that name, but there's some other guys who had late starts to their career and didn't have enough accomplishments at the old major league level to get into the Hall of Fame. But hopefully there'll be some kind of study analysis, and then a guy like Minnie Minoso can have the full breadth of his career analyzed and be recognized. Because I think Minnie Minoso is one of those guys, and there's a few others who deserve to be in the Hall of Fame if you view the whole entirety of his career.
I think Minnie Minoso used to, and I know this from growing up in South Florida, used to come and play, like every year he would be the oldest person to play in a game when he was in his eight. Like he would come and play in a spring training game and like play an inning and get it at bat when he was like in his 80s, wouldn't he?
No, it was the regular season. He did that in the regular season for years. I can't remember. One year they were going to do it. I can't remember when he was 80 or 90. I can't remember how. I'd have to look it up, but they were going to try it one more time, and finally Major League Baseball said, "Hey, stop it! You can't do it. I mean, this is getting ridiculous." But he was doing it during the regular season. It wasn't spring training.
TR, has the push for the acknowledgement of Negro League players, you said it's kind of slowly been building up. Is that something that's been precipitated by anything, or is it just that it's been building up for so long that the time has finally arrived to go full bore with trying to do their best to recognize those stats?
I think, it might be the last step. I mean, it's funny. It's funny, baseball tries to do the right thing, but sometimes, back in the 60 or 69, Ted Williams was really pushing hard for Satchel Paige and Josh Gibson to be in the Hall of Fame. And finally baseball agreed, but it was going to be like a special recognition. It wasn't going to be like in the Hall of Fame, you know. And, you know, Bowie Kuhn had sincere intentions, but he, you know, kind of didn't go far enough. And I think Major League Baseball over the years, you know, Jackie Robinson, the Roberto Clemente Award, you know, a lot more players and executives have gone to the Hall of Fame. You know, they have the Buck O'Neil Award. I think Major League Baseball continues to explore and work hard, you know, trying to do the right things. You know, they've done a fabulous job with the academies all over the country. I know the Rangers Academy has just been a huge hit. They did a fabulous job at the Academy in Dallas, and it's just been a tremendous boost to the community. So, you know, Major League Baseball continues to try to do the right thing, and this is a huge step right here.
TR, where were you when the earthquake struck California? Were you covering the World Series?
Yes, I was in the upper deck in Candlestick Park behind home plate. We were in the press box. You know, the press box at Candlestick Park is very small, so they had auxiliary press boxes. One in the football box down the third base line, but a bunch of us were in the upper deck in the stands, but they had makeshift desks there, and I was sitting next to Jim Reeves. Everybody knows as Revo. And I had gone to the University of San Francisco, so I knew something about earthquakes. So we're sitting there waiting for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series, and the Giants were down 2-0. And Will Clark had said after the Game 2 loss, he says, "Wait till we get to Candlestick Park. Our fans will be loud, they'll be noisy, they'll be roaring, they'll be behind us." So it's 5-10 minutes before the game, and all of a sudden we hear a loud rumble. And I'm going, wow, Clark was right. These fans are fired up. And then it rumbled a little louder. And I'm going, I think this is an earthquake. And before you know it, that 60,000-seat stadium is rocking back and forth. Huge concrete stadium is rocking visibly back and forth. And I'll never forget this. We're sitting in, after it's over, and there's some aftershocks. Revo has one of those portable battery-operated TVs back in 1989. And he was watching on TV. And we saw the smoke in the distance from that freeway that had collapsed. But Revo sitting there watching it, and he said something that I will never forget as long as I live. And you got to remember, I lived in San Francisco for 4 years. I went across the Bay Bridge a lot, and he was looking at TV, and he said, "The Bay Bridge has collapsed."
Oh my goodness!
Now think about that. All he said was, "The Bay Bridge has collapsed." Now, we all know it was just a small section of it, thank God, and only one person was killed, and they fixed it in a month. But when a guy says that the Bay Bridge has collapsed, that will stick in your mind forever.
Well, that's a name of a movie right there. You know, the Bay Bridge has collapsed as well. The hire of Chris Young, who was obviously a player who played in the Ivy League and then, of course, had a major league career, a rising star in Major League Baseball. What's the background to hiring him and John Daniels' role within the Rangers?
Well, I think the Rangers have a good organization. And you know, this is an organization that's been to 2 World Series, won 4 division titles, and has had a lot of success. But I think they just needed, I don't want to say shake it, but every organization needs new blood, new life, whatever cliche you want, but mainly new ideas. A fresh approach, somebody who can really, you know, introduce new things. And I think what the Rangers really needed, I think they needed, number one, they needed, Young's a great leader. I think he commands a lot of respect. He commands a lot of respect in this game. And I think he'll really help unite that organization. But the thing I'm hoping for is this guy pitched, 13, 14 years in the big leagues, and he's pretty good at it. And he's very smart. And I think what really could help this organization is a fresh approach to pitching, a little different approach to pitching. Maybe slow down the development a little bit. Maybe not push these guys as hard. Maybe change the way they think about some of these kids, or just something different. Because the biggest thing right now, we all know about the Rangers' history about developing pitching, but that's not relevant right now. The Rangers have a lot of good young arms in this system. I mean, Kyle Cody, Hans Krause. I mean, We can go through all the Cole Wynn. We can go through all the names. But first of all, they missed the minor league season, so that's big. A lot of them are coming back from injury. That's big. It's going to take some really careful maneuvering with these guys to get them back to full strength. But if the Rangers do this right with their young pitching, this organization could really flourish in about 3 or 4 years. I mean, they could really be good and be good for a while. But it's going to take some smarts. And hopefully Chris Young is a guy who could help facilitate that.
Did you, as you were going through your career, and there's been some great men that have written about the Rangers. Of course, we've lost some of them, Fraley and Durrett. And now, there's others who are still there. You, of course, now retired. Was there a responsibility as a writer, as a Hall of Fame writer, the way there is a player in the locker room to help those who are getting in the business understand the business?
If you ask me what I'm going to miss most about this business, it is working with young writers. I love that. I love that to death. Kathleen O'Brien, Drew Davidson, Mac Engel, Jeff Wilson, just all the young writers that came through that press box, Richard Durrett, Susan Slusser. And I had some great interns who've gone on to fabulous careers in other markets. That was the most fun I ever had, was just working with really good young writers who are eager to learn. And I'll tell you, there's a kid for the Dallas Morning News who I love, Sam Blum, who I think is going to be really, really good. So there's a lot, Jeff Wilson, Evan Grant are world-class reporters, outstanding baseball writers. I mean, if you want great baseball coverage, don't worry. There's never going to be a lack of that here in the Metroplex, as long as Evan and Levi Weaver, who's on the Athletic and doing a fabulous job, and of course Jeff Wilson is outstanding with the Star Telegram, and the tradition will continue.
TR, how do you feel about the way that the team is set up for next year? I mean, you talked a little bit about Chris Young, and obviously Elvis is going to be moving. They made the move at shortstop, but just how do you feel they're set up for the 2021 season going in?
Okay, that's a great question, because that's something I've been thinking about a lot. And you guys know the history of the Texas Rangers, and they had the worst record in the American League last year. So you sit there and say, this club's going to be terrible this year. They're going to be bad. But you know what? 3 times in club history, this team has had a miracle season. 74 under Billy Martin, 86 under Bobby Valentine, and 2004 under Buck Showalter. And they ended up contending for the American League West title. They didn't win, but they had winning records. They fought all the way into September. It created a lot of excitement and really brought baseball back to life. And everybody says what a memorable seasons those were. And that is true. But the problem was all 3 of those seasons created false expectations for a team that was not ready to compete and not ready to stop rebuilding, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. The focus on all 3 of those teams should still have been continue to build with young players and build a much better foundation. For example, in 04, we all remember 04, Mark Teixeira, Hank Blaylock, Soriano, Kevin Minch, Mark Teixeira, on and on. They had a great offensive team. But other than Kenny Rogers, they didn't have that much of pitching. They needed more pitching, and the pitching wasn't at the same as the hitting. But after they had that great 04 season, everybody had much higher expectations for this team than they really deserved, and it flatlined. The team flatlined, and they didn't progress, and that whole group just kind of petered away. Teixeira had to be traded to start a new rebuilding thing. Blaylock kind of petered out. Minch kind of petered out. Soriano got traded, and it took another 6 years and another rebuilding cycle before they put together a World Series team. So my point is, there's a possibility they could have a great season next year, but it's still important for them to finish this rebuilding and not take any shortcuts. Yeah, that's a great point. TR,
do you think that's something that Chris Young realizes along with John Daniels?
I think everybody realizes it, and I think the most important, and this is why I'm kind of optimistic about this. The most important guy who realizes this is Ray Davis.
Gotcha.
Because if you look at the past, those other those other three great seasons basically saved the owner. I mean, you go Brad Corbett was in trouble financially. Eddie Childs certainly was in trouble financially. And we know now that Tom Hicks was starting to get into some business issues that led to the bankruptcy. Mm-hmm. So I think Ray Davis is more financially solid and strong and much more willing to not try any shortcuts to jumpstart the franchise and cash in on something that's just not ready to be.
Paul, who's the Baylor booster? Who's
Simpson?
Is Bob Simpson still involved with the ownership of the Rangers?
He's still involved. Yes, he is still the co-partner, but I think he has not been as involved as Ray Davis. Yeah. Ray Davis is kind of, I think Bob Davis. I know he loves Baylor. I know I can't really speak for Bob Simpson. I know, he's a very impressive man. What the whole dynamic is in there, I'm not sure, but I do know he bought the Fort Worth Star Telegram building in downtown Fort Worth and turned it into a gem. So that was very impressive.
TR, God, I'm telling you right now, I when I saw the note yesterday that you were retiring, I flashed back to many things that I remember learning from you, sharing with you. You had a weekly segment with me for years and us for years, and we wish you the best. And I think it's great. You could just sit down, do whatever you want, listen to a game on the radio, and look out the back porch and enjoy life. I think that's fantastic. You've earned that. You don't deserve that. You earned that, which is, to me, is even more important.
Well, thank you, David. I appreciate it. I've always said you and Paul have always been great, so I appreciate it. Well, and Butch, what happened to Butch? Where's Butch?
He passed away earlier this year
in June.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that. I'm sorry. We're all so isolated. My condolences. He was awesome.
Yeah.
TR, I just want to thank you. I got to cover several baseball playoffs, and my first one, I was as nervous to walk into the clubhouse as anyone. And I just said, you know what I'm doing? I'm just going to watch TR and go and do what he does. And you were great. And I didn't make a fool of myself. So thank you very much for that.
My pleasure, guys. Always.
Thank you, TR. TR Sullivan, a great writer for the Rangers and Major League Baseball, retiring after a long career of covering the Rangers in the Dallas and Fort Worth area and Major League Baseball in general. So imagine being in the top press box upstairs and you start to feel the shimmering. And you'd been in San Francisco. He went to the University of San Francisco. Bill Russell's University of San Francisco, the Dons.
Is that 1 and 2? It's Bill Russell and T.R. Sullivan?
Yeah. No, it is. It is. I think so. I believe so. And in just Bay Area history, it's Bill Russell, Barry Bonds, Vida Blue, Catfish Hunter. TR's in the top 10 somewhere. Joe Montana, he might be in that list as well. Jerry Rice.
I don't know, some guy named Steph Curry.
Steph Curry, yeah. Steph Curry. Okay, when we come back, Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. The Cowboys have 3 games left in the season. His thoughts about game number, 14? Also today, former Baylor All-Southwest Conference linebacker. He's now an assistant head coach at La Vega. Gary Joe Kenny will join us today at 5 o'clock, and then at 5:30 we'll continue. In fact, I just got a text from Sam Tecklenburg, the Carolina Panthers, cleared for us to have a chance to visit with him, try to see if we can fit him in either today or tomorrow, among much more. SicEm365 Radio.
Brotherwell Brewing, I was down there last night to talk to the staff there and just kind of get an idea of what's going on over the holidays. Look, right now they have a great deal. If you have a craft beer drinker in your life for gifts, they've got 2 pint glasses and a growler from Brotherwell, and they have refillable growlers. So if you give them a growler, they can go in and fill it up with whatever they want throughout the year. They've got a great seasonal beer right now, which was the Bridge Street Vit that was made in wine barrels, which is really very cool. They aged it there. It was awesome. I got to taste last night. They've got all kind of great stuff at Brotherwell. The tap room is open. The patio's open. The last East Side Market of the year is on Sunday, so you can go do that. They've got trivia tonight starting at 7 o'clock. Space is limited, so make sure that you call up there and reserve your space. And on January 6th, Steve May and I will be hosting trivia from Brotherwell after the holiday, so make your plans now to come out to that and have some fun as we host trivia at Brotherwell Brewing on 400 East Bridge Street, right down from our studio here. If you're a craft beer fan, if you have a craft beer fan in your life for the holidays, check out brotherwell.com or follow them on Instagram.
Christmas time is Jeep time at Allen Samuels. It's the big finish event, and the world's most awarded SUV has 0%, no payments for 90 days, and employee pricing for all on select models. Save thousands on the rugged Renegade and new 2020 Grand Cherokees. Even new 2021 Jeep Cherokees are included. 0%, no payments for 90 days. Employee pricing for all. Happy holidays from Allen Samuels.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
At Baylor University, students can shine in their own way. Or should we say their own ways? Because there's no limit to the ways Baylor students make the world a brighter place. Whether they're leading a student organization or following a higher calling, getting advice from faculty, or taking part in world-class research, pursuing their dreams, or working toward their dream job, students find their place to shine at Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Bird Culchin Ford has been in Waco since 1936. Ford, the #1 selling truck in Texas, 43 years running. And Bird Culchin Ford proudly supports high school football in Central Texas. And no better way to tailgate with a Ford than from Bird Culchin Ford. And are there better vehicles to tailgate with than the Ford F-150 or the Ford Expedition? And of course, you can get them new pre-owned Bird Culchin Ford. Our sponsor of the Ford Tough Player of the Week, locally owned dealership. Online at bkford.com at 1701 West Loop 340 in Waco. Bird Culchin Ford.
Waco's newest gym, Halo Athletic Center, 5725 Bagby Avenue, right behind Region 12 and across the highway from the Central Texas Marketplace, where motivation, inspiration, and hard work are the driving force. State-of-the-art equipment, indoor and outdoor track, locker rooms, showers, yoga and bar classes by Duality Yoga, Bod Pod potty composition analysis, and registered dietitians, all under one roof, where we rise above. Come join the Halo Athletic Center and be a part of the change, your change.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com. Brought to you by the First National Bank of Central Texas, with 5 locations to serve you.
All right, here we go, this 4 o'clock hour, halfway through it, and we have added former Baylor offensive lineman and now a member of the Carolina Panthers practice squad, Sam Tecklenburg. Got a text from him in the middle of the, last segment. Said Bruce Spade of the Panthers, I had requested to try to get Sam on the show, or Bravion Roy. Tecklenburg will join us in the next segment after we have Mickey Spagnola. Then we're loaded up in the 5 o'clock hour. Paul will also feature Arizona, as they have a coaching search with Kevin Sumlin, former A&M coach and Houston coach, and now former Arizona coach as well. Sam Bradshaw at 5:30 on Oklahoma and Iowa State Saturday in the Big 12 championship game. If you've been watching the state championship games, you've seen it's decked out with Big 12.
Yeah,
because they're not supposed to be playing this weekend.
Yeah, it's weird to see Oklahoma and Iowa State end zones. I guess that's a benefit of playing in the Big 12 title game. And did those happen with did that happen with Baylor and Oklahoma last year? I don't think it did. Were they different weekends, I guess? Because I guess this is weird because it's all together, but I don't recall.
What is today? Today is the
Thursday, December 17th.
Yeah, I wonder.
I don't remember. I mean, it doesn't matter really.
This would be state championship week. That's interesting, though. I don't recall that they had the Big 12 championship games in the end zone. Then maybe they have. It's just been something we just didn't realize. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I don't remember. But the point being that it's nice if you're Iowa State and Oklahoma to have all of that, attention every time a player in a Texas State championship game, goes into the end zone or the camera even shows a piece of the end zone in the state of Texas. In Arlington, says Iowa State and Oklahoma. And Lincoln Riley actually commented about that. I think Corby from up in Dallas, the ticket, he had made a comment because he's a big OU fan. And Lincoln Riley responded like, heck yeah, it's awesome to see our end zone painted or our name painted in one of the end zones while you're watching Texas high school football playoffs. It's just kind of weird.
A little bit different, and it was 14-7 halftime. Canadian leads Franklin in that game in Class 3A. We're now joined by Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com. He joins us on SicEm365 Radio. So, Mickey, they get a win. I don't care what the situation is. I don't care what it's like. I remember when Baylor was 1-6, and then all of a sudden, or whatever, they were 1-5, and they beat Kansas State, and what it meant, even though they still didn't win after that. What does a win just around the facility mean, even if a team is pretty much almost all but done when it comes to the postseason?
Yeah, I think you just kind of feel better about yourself. Maybe gives you a little bit more confidence that if you do this, and this, then that can turn into a victory. And again, as you said, David, no matter who you're playing, and I get it, it was Cincinnati, and I get it, it was getting pretty dicey there at the beginning of the fourth quarter. It didn't look like at that time it was a 30-7 victory, but it was a win. And when you're struggling the way this team has, when you've been through what it has, just to feel better about yourself, I think helps out. And then the other thing it does is, and as you said, look, the chances of winning the division are slim, but mathematically that possibility still exists. So it gives you something to point to going forward.
Mickey, just out of curiosity, and I got to know this, how the quarterback market works out. And look, the salary cap, we got word that it maybe not going to be $175 million. Maybe it's going to be better, so it's not going to be as dire as people thought. Is there a shot that Andy Dalton comes back as the backup next year?
I think, number one, that's up to him. Number two, it's probably up to the market. If somebody's looking for a veteran starting quarterback, or at least to have one to come in and compete for that job, then I think he would take that. He would want that opportunity still. I mean, that was kind of his idea of coming here in the first place, was to say, okay, this is a one-year deal. Let me see if I can, refurbish my career, regenerate it, and maybe find a starting job. But that's going to depend on what happens to be out there. I think if all things are equal and that opportunity is not there, I don't even know the salary cap is that important. I think that they could afford to sign a veteran quarterback. He can do what you've seen him able to do when he's healthy, when he's got an offensive line that's functioning decently. And yeah, I think you would want him as his backup, and he would factor in he doesn't have to move his family.
Mickey, is the secondary going to get some reinforcements this week?
Well, I think that's, it's looking encouraging right now at this point. It was encouraging that Anthony Brown today played practice at a full basis. It was encouraging that Trayvon Diggs, who, still on IR, but was out there. So Mike McCarthy thought he was moving forward. Chidobe Awuzie, I would imagine if he has another good day or two, he'll come off the COVID list. So that helps out. It doesn't help that Rashard Robinson, who ended up starting last week, did not practice yet this week. Deonte Burton, who was one of the guys that came in when the starters went out, has a shoulder. He didn't practice. And then Xavier Woods suddenly crops up on the injury report, they've got him listed as limited. I think his limited was basically rehabbing a strained groin on the resistant cord. So they really need Donovan Wilson to be able to come back, and it looks like he will. He was listed fully today with the groin he strained that kept him out of the previous 2 games. And, they were just kind of running out of safeties because if Woods was out and Donovan Wilson wasn't ready to go, you're probably looking at Darian Thompson and Reggie Robinson playing his first NFL snaps on defense. So that was somewhat good news. So we'll see where it goes. But, yeah, this secondary suddenly it was like a virus spread around with different injuries on that group.
It has nothing to do with the Cowboys, but it has something to do with the virus. Craig, what does that say right there? I know, Mickey, this has nothing to do with your segment, but it's kind of an interesting note with all that's going on in COVID.
Houston men's basketball coach Kelvin Sampson says all 15 of his players have had COVID-19. So I guess it doesn't say currently, but every member of the team has had it, which may be a good thing because then the rest of the way you're probably pretty good. I don't know.
Yeah, Baylor's had their flare-up. They just resumed activities. Have the Cowboys overall, I know Dalton and maybe 1 or 2, they've done a pretty good job of managing this compared, I guess everyone's done a good job compared to the Ravens and maybe 1 or 2 other teams, right?
Yeah, I think since the initial test when, I can't even think, someone tested positive on the initial one, it's really only been Dalton, Chidobe were the only 2 that, and so, yeah, and I don't know, if Cheetos was a positive test or if it was contact tracing. But yeah, they kind of, done a decent job of just kind of, or getting lucky. I don't know which way you look at it. And then the Cowboys helped it out by putting the staff, meaning the coaches and anybody else on the football staff that's around the players, quarantining them right there. I think it was the Sunday before Thanksgiving. And if you look at the numbers, David, of the test, it's almost 3-1 since they started testing everybody daily. Staff, football staff, coaching staff, to players. So a lot of these guys that have been going home and maybe, I'm not playing, maybe not being as careful as they needed to be. And frankly, who knows, right? You can be as careful as if you think you should be and still contact the virus. So it's hard to put a finger on why. But yes, to answer your question, they've been pretty fortunate when it came to that. But they paid a high price with basically football injuries.
Mickey, if I said of all the list of problems that this team has, if you can only pick one to solve, somebody else gets to pick the other one. But if it's your first choice to solve one problem with this team, what's the one thing that you would do?
I don't think this problem's solvable, but quit turning over the football. Think about it. No turnovers against Cincinnati. That was the first time that's occurred since the season opener. And it is somewhat of an improving trend. I figured out that over these last 4 games, and this is a good thing when you look at the Cowboys, maybe not for everybody else. 4 games, they've only had 4 turnovers. Over those first 9 games, they had 20 turnovers. You can't win that way when you're turning it over more than 2 times a game. I don't know that I could fix that, so I'm not sure I answered your question. But that, I think that has caused more problems for a team that was devastated by injuries to some very high-priced starters, I think, than anything else. And the injury shouldn't have anything to do with holding on to the da-da-da football, right?
Yeah. Mickey, I think that's a great point you make, just because if you just play average football and not, you may not get some of the great things you got with your starters, but if you just fundamental football, then this is probably not as dire as it looks. And I think that's good to have perspective on where the team really is as they move forward.
Yeah, and I think if you go back, I can't think it off the top of my head. The one game that turned it over 4 times. 4. Can't do that. You know, and I think San Francisco proved that this past Sunday against Washington, right? They had 2 turnovers returned for touchdowns, defensive touchdowns. And the game was, what was it, 23-17? Washington only scored basically with their offense 9 points. They get 14 on defensive returns off of turnovers. So it just makes such a big difference. And, you know, if you were sitting there going, okay, we were really bad, we were throwing interceptions, but it's been fumbles. There's been fumbles that people don't usually fumble, meaning Zeke. So I don't know how you go figure that. But we did see what a difference it makes last week against Cincinnati. You know, you get 3 takeaways and you win 30-7. If you don't get those and one of them returned for a touchdown, game on. And it was almost game on anyway. Had that touchdown Cincinnati scored, didn't get called back because of the holding call, and then they basically turned it over on downs that possession. Otherwise, we're looking at 2014 going into the fourth quarter.
Mickey, thank you very much. Appreciate it as always. Mickey Spagnola, Thursdays at 4:30, DallasCowboys.com. That's Mickey Spagnola and the Cowboys now 13 games into their season, and there's like a 0.19% that they can, a 0.019% or something like that they can make the playoffs. Franklin fumbled early in the third quarter. Canadian up 14-7, 3A Division II. Canadian at the Franklin 35. When we come back, Sam Tecklenburg, member of the Carolina Panthers, joins us next on SicEm365 Radio. Pickup Outfitters, gift cards, great opportunity for you. I keep mentioning things that are stocking stuffers. This is heavy, big stuff, not like Pioneer Steel and Pipe, like that kind of thing, but bumpers and grill guards and bump steps and tires and stuff like that you can make your truck bigger, better, nicer. And it's probably already pretty good as well. Lay-in and spray-in bed liners. And then, of course, numerous types of retractable type covers for your bed, your pickup bed, to keep things that are in the bed either safe from the elements or safe from someone seeing what's in there, or just protect them, just because it adds something else to what you have. And right now they have bed covers on a basic, and remember, it's free installation on the bed covers. You get a bed cover, also warranty that comes with it. They'll give you assistance on that. That's what Pickup Outfitters does. 220 Lake Air Drive. Gift certificates for stocking stuffers or just for a card. Wheels and tires and step bars and fit floor liners if you want those, or bed covers, as I mentioned. Bumpers, grill guards, all of it for your pickup truck, SUV, and even minivans. Pickup Outfitters, CreateACommotion.com, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs, too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
MP Electric has developed a quality-oriented electrical contracting service in more than 20 years in the industry. Led by President Mark Perry, our electricians go through a 5-year apprenticeship program, are licensed by the state of Texas, and getting continuous education annually upon renewal. In great part, the success of MP Electric lies with its management and professional expertise of its employees. All of our employees share a dedication to quality and commitment to serving the needs of our customers. For new construction and remodels, parking lot, lighting and surge protection, landscape lights, security lights, troubleshooting and repairs. For industrial manufacturing, food and beverage, paper and publishing, heavy industry, cement and rock crushing plants, water distribution plants, and utilities. For 20 years, MP Electric has serviced industrial, commercial, and residential products. We do service right. MP Electric Inc. at 1890 Galaxy Road, Waco. MPElectricUSA.com.
Car has the trucks, man. They have the one for you. Crew cab, short or long bed, silver, black or blue. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, he has the truck for you. Carr has the trucks, man. He has the truck you need. If you want the best truck, you want a GMC. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
If you or a loved one or friend has been arrested and you can't afford bail, trust Terry and Chase Chapman at Chapman's Bail Bonds, covering Waco and McLennan County for over 25 years. Chapman's can bail you out anywhere with experienced, knowledgeable local agents who are committed to serving you professionally, respectfully, and with the highest integrity. Chapman's understands your privacy is important. Your freedom can be secured fast when you use Chapman's Bail Bonds. Open 24 hours a day. Payment arrangements available. Call Chapman's Bail Bonds. When you need help, 254-754-1603. When you ring, we'll spring.
This is SicEm365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The SicEm365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
452 on SicEm365 Radio. We're joined by Carolina Panthers offensive lineman and former Baylor offensive lineman Sam Tecklenburg on SicEm365 Radio. We've had Sam on before. He joins us again. Bruce Spade of the Carolina Panthers helped set this up. Thank you, Bruce. And thank you, Sam. How you doing, young man?
I'm good. How are you doing?
We're doing well. How's Matt Rule? I know that the record's not great, but he will, and he is slowly turning this team into one that eventually, when it's time to win, they probably will. Do you see the same similarities as what he did at Baylor?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, our record isn't, what we want it to be right now, but, he's doing his thing, and he's laid a good foundation here. So I'm excited for this team, and I think they have a bright future.
Well, Sam, I got to tell you, if you guys could get all your offensive weapons healthy at once, Christian McCaffrey, Curtis Samuel didn't have COVID, like all these things, I think that's pretty scary, a lot of you.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think, that's been something that definitely could have helped this whole year, having Christian available for most of the season. But, even outside of Christian, we have a ton of weapons, and, I think we've showed flashes throughout the season, and I think things will just keep getting better. I think things are clicking, and hopefully we can take another step.
So Sam, at one point you were going to be out of the game of football, and then you're back and you're in the NFL. And what's that experience been like, being in the pros, seeing how it works on that level? What's been your experience?
Oh, it's been awesome. I've enjoyed every part of being a Panther since I've joined the team, and just from virtual off season leading up to training camp, and then being here. We got a great locker room with a great culture, great offensive line room. I've really enjoyed this season, and I'm definitely glad I'm here and playing football. And it's been really nice just to kind of have this experience this season and kind of change things up, going from being the old guy at Baylor, being a rookie now and learning from some really good players.
Is it now more of a business as it is a game?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely the business side to it, but I think a little less than I expected because, once you're in that building, it is when you're with the guys, it's all football and, it's, same type of thing in college. You have a locker room, it's guys you're around all day. You enjoy being around them. So, in the end, it's still football, but yeah, there is that business aspect to it now.
How much does it help that there are guys like you and Bravion and PJ Walker, Robbie Anderson, that know Coach Rule and know how he handles his business and does things that helps the team transition into a new coaching staff?
I think it's been good. I mean, for, guys like me and, Bravion, like, all the guys who played for Coach Rule in the past, I think it's good for us personally because we have an expectation of how things should go. But, for the team, it's like, it matters, it matters how it fits with the team. So we've been building that this year. It doesn't matter if a few of us kind of had an expectation of things. It's how we can grip what Coach Rule wants as a team. So we definitely been building that all year. I think we've come a long way. But yeah, I think for me personally, it's helped a lot just kind of having a little bit of an expectation.
So, Sam, Baylor obviously wrapped up their season last week with a loss. It's been a tough year, transition, no spring ball. We've documented all that, and a new coaching staff. Just what were kind of your impressions? Did you get a chance to watch them much this year? And if you did, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I watched most of their games this year. It was tough, you never want to see, your team struggling like they did, but it's also understandable. I mean, it's so much adversity this year, a lot of changes there. So, with that being said, I am really proud of the guys. I have a lot of friends there still, just tuning in to watch them. I thought so many guys, played really well this year, and I thought they, fought through adversity, like no other. So I was definitely proud of that. But, as for the team, I mean, any of them would probably tell you, I mean, it's, no one's ever happy with the 2-win season. So I know they're hungry and, want to improve, and I know they will.
Today there was news that Trestan Ebner is coming back. There is news that it looks like Raleigh Tejada is coming back. Not official yet, but William Bradley King, who's a transfer that came in, he's going to leave for the NFL. He's a very good talent as well. And then, of course, there was John Lovett. And then on Sunday, a young man that you blocked for while you were there, and Charlie Brewer deciding to leave as well. And it's been a really difficult year for Charlie and the offense. What are your thoughts? What do you remember most about Charlie Brewer?
Charlie's the toughest football player I've ever played with. I mean, it's as easy as that. I mean, he's a winner. Anyone knows me knows I've got nothing but nice things to say about him. And, he's earned every bit of that. And, I'm happy that he made that decision because I know it's what he feels is best for him. So, I told him the other day, wherever he ends up is getting another fan in me. So I'm happy he's taken control of his career, and he wants to put himself in the best position to succeed. So I fully support him if that's what he feels is best. I hate to see him leaving my Baylor Bears, but I love that kid, and I know he's doing what he feels is best for him.
Did he reach out to you? And I'm not trying to get you to share anything that's private, but did you kind of get the feeling this was going to happen?
No, I honestly wasn't expecting it. I wasn't sure what he was going to do, honestly. And I saw the news, shortly after our game on Sunday, and I just shot him a text afterwards and, said a few things to him, and I figured he was really busy, but he eventually, hit me back later in the day. And that was about all I've talked to him, since he decided that. But, no, I was a little surprised, but, like I said, I fully support that if that's what he wants to do.
Anything else, Paul? Craig? All right, man. Hey, Tech, we appreciate it. You know that Blackmar and one of the owners of SicEm365, Brian Etheridge, are going to have a throwdown cooking contest in March.
I saw that on Twitter. I saw a little bit of that going on. I'll have to tune into that and see what's going on there. That'll be a good showdown.
Well, if you're available, just come on down.
We'll make. We need somebody to help eat it.
Hey, Patrick Lawrence has already volunteered to be Blackmar's sous chef or whatever. So.
Oh yeah, I'll have to take part in that. If I'm around, I'll have to make my way there for that.
I will text Coach Rule and say, can you give Sam Tecklenburg a hall pass? We need him for a cook-off. I'm sure that'll go over great. That'll go over really, really well.
Yeah, man, just keep early March open if you can. I think it's going to be that first week.
Oh, yeah. I'll have it in the back of my mind. Blackmore's cooking, I'm there.
Yeah. So the season ends in 3 weeks. Carolina's not going to make the playoffs. A lot of teams won't. What happens then? Have you bought a place? What do you do? Where do you live? I always wondered about guys who may live in one place. Like, let's say you had a place in Waco or your hometown, but now you're in the NFL and, you're making pretty good coin, even the practice squad. What do you do? How does that work out?
So I live in an apartment here in Charlotte right now, and once the season's over, luckily we were able to find a place we could kind of time out, once the season's over. Our lease ends in like early January. So we're going to come back to Texas, and we have a few months. I mean, we're off basically until OTAs start, and who knows what that looks like next year, whether that'll be in person or virtual. But that usually starts, late April, early May, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll have a couple months there, and then usually off in July, a few weeks before camp starts. So we'll come back to Texas, and we'll either live with my parents for a little bit or find a place to live. We'll have to do another short-term lease, obviously. But yeah, it's kind of tough. I mean, I'm not at the point where we want to live here year round. We want to come back to Texas, and I know y'all know I got married last summer. So we want to find our own place, so we'd have to find a short-term lease, be out on our own. My parents will have us, but we don't know if we want to live there that long.
Hey, Sam, I was curious, and I know we got to let you go in a second, but I haven't been out to the Carolinas. I've been on the East Coast, but not that far southeast coast, other than Florida, obviously, that mid-Atlantic area. Is it as beautiful as the pictures seem to indicate? Do you like it out there?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's been tough this season not getting to go out and see a whole lot of stuff with COVID and everything, but just driving around and, during the bye week, we went out and did a little hike and stuff. And I mean, it's beautiful out here. There's tons of forest. Just driving on the highway. I mean, you get right outside of Charlotte. And, I mean, trees go on forever. So it's a really nice area. We're enjoying it. Wish we could enjoy it a little more, without COVID, but we're making do.
Yeah, you get the real colors, although it's been in the 30s throughout the week in Texas, but I know that's different.
Poor us.
On them, yeah. But you get the real colors, the fall, and then, of course, you get a pretty good winter as well. Tell Coach Rule we said hi, and also Bravey on as well. Clay and Clay Johnson.
The entire coaching staff.
Yeah.
Phil Snow.
Yeah. I mean, like
Kent
the 2019 Baylor football team. Tell them we all said hi. It's great to hear from you. I'm glad we were able to jump on with us, Sam. We just wanted to check in with you, say hi, and appreciate your time and also feedback. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Sam Tecklenburg, Carolina Panthers. That practice squad, those guys make some pretty good money now per week. Of course, that's during the season. And then there's guys we've seen, Graylin Arnold, up and down, active and not. But when we come back, he played linebacker at a very high all-conference level in the Southwest Conference at Baylor. He's been a high school coach. Gary Joe Kenny. He is also on the staff at Don Hyde's La Vega Pirates, and he's next on Sic'Em 365 Radio.
The First National Bank of Central Texas, 5 locations here to serve you at home. Waco, Woodway, Hewitt, China Spring, Mart, and Hillsboro. And they're fantastic. You need a local bank because they're going to help you live locally. If you go with a big, gigantic national bank, it's a headache. Like, they have Secure Lock Equip at the First National Bank of Central Texas, so if your credit card gets used and you didn't use it, right away, and you can shut it off. And you can go get a new one right away, instant issue. Well, if you're with a big national bank, you call an 800 number, you talk to a robot, then you finally talk to a real person. They say, okay, it'll be in 3 business days. Well, how about in like 1 business hour? As long as the bank's open, you can go up to the bank and say, I need a new debit card. Here's what happened. Boom, you've got it within that time. You do it in the drive-through window right now. Safe banking in person or online. They've got it all at the First National Bank of Central Texas. 5 locations here to serve you at home.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. And this football season, you need to stop by on game day for curbside pickup or stop by their tent next to SicEm365 at Brazos Parking for your pregame refreshment. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of health care while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of health care has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries, celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas. Our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Come see us at the new Baylor Scott and White Ted and Sue Getterman Sports and Orthopedic Center. Trust the doctors at Baylor Trust, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Brewer over the middle. He's got a man in stride, and walking into the end zone is Josh Fleeks with the touchdown.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on SicEm365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, located at the Imperial Drive exit off Loop 340 in Waco. Proud supporters of all Baylor Athletics.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Update from AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Canadian 21-14 lead over Franklin, but the Lions of Franklin in the early part of the fourth quarter have moved the ball out from the goal line after a fourth down stop, and that game is just a 7-point game, 3A Division II. Gary Joe Kenny with us on SicEm365 Radio, former All-Southwest Conference linebacker at Baylor, longtime head football coach and coach in Texas as well, and he joins us on SicEm365 Radio. Paul Catalina, David Smoak, and Craig Smoak. Do you miss having a team. You've gotten kind of used to that, La Vega. Do you miss having a team up there playing for a state championship this week?
I do. We've been there 2 years in a row, and not being there this year, it's tough. I'm home watching the games, but it's not the same.
What's it like to now? You are at La Vega with Don Hyde and his football team and the run that they've had. You had a long stretch as a head coach at many places, Sherman, obviously Canton, and elsewhere. What's it like now to be the coordinator and assistant coach?
Yeah, it's different. I enjoy it. I love working with Coach Hyde and the staff here in La Vega. We got great kids here, and it's been really rewarding. We've had a lot of success. That's been real fun, and working with some great kids and being able to do that. Being able to coach my son as an assistant coach has kind of been fun. I coached DJ as a head coach, and then being able to coach Landry as an assistant, that was probably a little more relaxing, if I'll be honest.
No kidding.
So GJ's in Hawaii now, right?
Yes. He's offensive coordinator in Hawaii, and he's doing really well. He told me to tell you guys hello. I told him I was going to be on.
Great kid. Really enjoyed covering him when he had that great run at Canton. He eventually ended up at Gilmer, but he had that great run. You had that huge win. Remember that at Rose Stadium when you shocked the world and beat Gilmer?
Yeah, probably my all-time favorite game. I mean, you forget 61-58. It was a barn burner, and it was really fun. Had a great group there, and obviously made it special being able to have my son on the team. But either way, it was just a great game.
How do you feel about the matchups in the Texas high school football playoffs? Are there some games that intrigue you? I know some others have occurred. Mark got shocked last night, but is there any particular games you're looking forward to?
Probably watching the Argyle game. They knocked us out, and they have a phenomenal team this year, and we've had a battle with those guys for the last 3 years or so. And definitely interested in watching Lindale. I used to live in Lindale, so familiar with those guys, and I think that I'm looking forward to that one probably the most.
Gary Joe, you had a great year, a great career at Baylor, all Southwest Conference linebacker during some times when Baylor had some teams with Coach Taft and the run that they made. What are your memories about when you played at Baylor, Coach Taft, and what the program was doing at the time?
That was the main reason I went to Baylor. I visited, but Coach Taft, I got recruited by a lot of the schools, and Coach Taft just came across as the most honest coach, and I knew he'd be there my whole 4 years, and so that's the reason I went there. And it's kind of been not just a 4-year commitment, it's kind of been a 50, 30-year commitment because, I talk to Coach Taft still today. I don't make any big decisions without talking to him, and he's always been a mentor to me, and so I just had some great memories there. We had some really good teams, especially early. 85 and 86 were really good, and then my last couple of years were really good on defense, but we just couldn't quite get it going on offense, so we didn't finish like we wanted to, but had some great memories.
Do you have a favorite one of Coach Taft? Maybe the one's kind of funny.
Oh man, I don't know if I have any funny memories, but my favorite memory obviously is my last games. We played Texas in Austin, and we beat them there for the first time in a long time, and beat them 50-7. And so, just being able to finish my career that way, that was probably the most memorable.
Yeah, and that that didn't come out of any. Baylor had beaten Texas. Coach Taft had some memorable conference championship wins against Texas, but did that game kind of come out of nowhere, that rout of Texas?
It probably did, but, we knew we were good that year. I mean, I think we had the number one defense in the conference. We were top 10 nationally, but we just could not get it. We had some bad luck. Brad Gable, our quarterback, got hurt, missed a lot of games that year. And so we had a lot of bad luck on offense, and we just couldn't quite get it all together. And then for whatever reason, the week before we had lost to Rice like 6-3, which was a shock. And then we came back that week, and I guess, known as our last game, we had so much talent, James Francis and Robert Blackman and those guys. And, so it wasn't a shock to us, but probably to everyone else. I mean, I guess the biggest scoring 50 was a shock, but, as far as beating them, we kind of felt like we could.
Gary Joe Kenny with us on SicEm365 Radio. You have coached in a lot of different places. You've had some memorable wins. I brought one up, the game with Gilmer. What, in the end, is your passion for coaching, and do you think coaching gave you back what you gave it?
Yeah, it has. I've always known I want to be a coach. When I went to school, that's all I've ever really wanted to do was be a football coach, and so I've been able to do that, and I've really enjoyed it. Like you said, I've been an assistant these last few years, and I kind of want to be a head coach again. I think I got one more chapter left, and I'd like to be a head coach one more time and give back again.
All right, can I tell everybody what you're dealing with right now, or do you want to keep that? It's probably too late now that I asked you that question. Yeah,
no, you can't.
Tell everyone what you're dealing with right now.
Well, I got diagnosed with COVID, I guess yesterday, and I started feeling sick the day before, and kind of knew real quick. I just felt like it was something bad, and so I got tested, and I tested positive. So I'm kind of not feeling that great, but a little out of breath. But you may hear that. But other than that, I'm doing okay.
Playing through pain.
Yeah, that's what you
playing through pain.
So you are doing this segment, and you tested positive for COVID, and there's all sorts of different symptoms, and yet you still wanted to do the segment with us. That's appreciative on our particular part as well. Did you go through the gamut of what everyone says, the aches and the pains and all the other stuff involved?
Yes, for sure. I've had everything except I didn't lose my sense of taste or smell. I've got that, but everything else, sore throat, achy, runny nose, just the whole gamut of that. Can't breathe, difficulty breathing, stuff like that. So just kind of all those things. But, I'd say my symptoms probably, I would think were, I don't know, maybe in the middle. I wouldn't say mild, but they're not the most severe, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from people who have had it, I've read that the taste and the smell thing, when you have that's the one that's like really shocking to you because you just, you can't taste or smell anything. So that's good that you don't have to necessarily deal with that. Gary Joe, obviously it was a tough year for Baylor and Dave Aranda in his first year. Were you able to watch much of them? And if you did, just kind of your thoughts on, obviously, what's a strange year to begin with, especially for a first-year head coach. But what'd you see, if anything?
Yeah, I try to watch those guys. I have, followed them as much as I can. And, I know it was a tough year this year, especially coming off last year's 11-3 year. But, when you don't have an off season and you don't get an opportunity to have spring ball and 2 days are in and out and missing as many players, I don't know how anybody, as a first-year coach can expect to do very well. And so I thought they did pretty well considering, and as many problems as there was going on with COVID. So, I look for big things. I think Coach Aranda's going to do a great job. And just as far as he gets his system in place, I think we'll see a big change next year.
Considering you went through as a coach, you had to deal with the practices and the masks and the social distancing and all the things, spacing, as a coach this year. Does that give you even more appreciation of what maybe even another level, whether it's college or another high school team or NFL's teams had to deal with?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, just coaching with a mask on and is difficult. I mean, you wouldn't think it would be, but it's just a pain. And, but it's necessary. I end up, obviously catching it, but wait till the season was over before I did. So I guess I was, during the season was fortunate. We didn't have any trouble in La Vega. I thought we did a great job with our kids. Our kids bought into, making sure that they didn't take a necessary risk. And so we were able to play our whole season without missing any players, and which was unusual. And so, you just see some places it hits harder than others. I don't know why, but, I think we did a good job of La Vega, at least being able to finish our year and not get sick.
Gary Joe Kenny with us, former Baylor All-Southwest Conference linebacker. The fact that you played defense, you were a linebacker. Craig mentioned that Dave Aranda, last year's Baylor team, played fantastic defense as well. Does that also get you kind of excited that they can do and play defense, although their last game didn't end very well?
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, I thought our linebackers were probably the strength this year, too. I mean, Terrell had gotten hurt, but, still, even then, I thought our linebackers were outstanding this year, had a lot of tackles for loss, and just really got after it. And I thought defensively we played, probably well enough, but just just wasn't our year. I mean, there was a lot of, last year, it seemed like every close game we had, we won. And this year, every close game we had, we kind of found a way not to win. So it's just one of those things. It wasn't our year. And it happens like that sometimes. And I think next year we'll see a big change.
So yesterday was National Signing Day, and we covered all the guys that Baylor brought in. But, La Vega obviously had, as they do every year, a fair share of athletes signing on to the next level. And you, over the course of your career, have had, numerous players who have signed, and your son's signing the next level. What's that like when signing day rolls around? Is that pretty special to see players making that move?
It is. We love to be able to help those kids get to live their dream and signing day is that for a lot of kids. And, even the kids that didn't sign yesterday, a lot of them will continue to sign as, the signing day continues. But, just seeing them have the opportunity to go live their dream, that's what we're, there to help them do. And so it was really fun to watch our kids. And we've had the fortune of having some really good players over the years and even this year. And so getting to watch them do that was exciting.
How has your life changed since the incident that you had to deal with? When I remember I was in Augusta National, I was actually covering the Masters that morning in Canton, Ohio. And Gary, here you are. It's been a long time. I mean, I don't know how. It's been a long, long time. How did your life change after that day?
Probably, I know it sounds crazy, but after the initial, as far as, recovering, it changed for the better. And it just made me a little more focused on what was important in life and those kind of things. So I think overall, it's been a blessing. I hadn't had any, since the initial, I guess, maybe 100 days or so that I was in the hospital. After that, I hadn't had a lot of complications. So that's been a blessing and just made our family closer together.
Isn't that great? Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
It is. I mean, sometimes it takes something like that to be able to, I guess, refocus you and realize what the important things are in your life. And you definitely did that. Now, I don't recommend it to anybody, but as far as that, but, it was definitely a side benefit that, of what happened. So, you got to make good things out of whatever life deals you. And you can't control some things, and I couldn't control that, but I made the best of it and moved on from there.
Thrilled that everything's going okay, man. I appreciate you, Coach. Thanks for joining us today. Appreciate your time. Always appreciate your access.
Anytime. Thanks, Smoak. Appreciate you.
Gary Joe Kinney. Wow. And now an assistant coach with Don Hyde. He said, he still wants to look at another opportunity one more time. He was at Sherman and then came to La Vega. GJ was a phenomenal quarterback. I should have asked him this. I was going to ask him because GJ was going to come to Baylor. And I think Guy Morris would have been the coach at the time. Yeah. And then that ended up, then he was going to go to Texas, who was Texas, and he ends up at Tulsa.
He did go to Texas.
Yeah. No, you're right. Exactly. He was on campus there, and now he's the coach on the staff at Hawaii, Phil Bennett, and his son.
Yeah, Sam.
Sam down there as well.
Remember to ask him about that. And we also need to remember to turn on the TV in this commercial break because this Franklin game's getting
21 apiece.
Dicey.
Yeah. Franklin had a completed pass, which everyone kind of went. Franklin threw the ball. I'll never forget at the end of last year or even sometime last year, Mike Hedrick, the longtime successful Hall of Fame coach, said, hey, we're going to learn how to throw the ball and mean it. And I was like, stop. They run that running game that's from hell. And but they had a big, huge 13-play, 98-yard drive that took half the quarter off the 6 minutes off the clock, and he had a big play, a passing play that made the difference there. So Franklin, over heavily favored, trying to do something with heavily favored Canadian. Last night, the shocker of all with Windthorst beating Mart in 22-21, an amazing finish that was.
Well, we didn't mention the score.
For Kevin.
Yeah, we didn't mention the score. Franklin is tied up 21-21 with 8 minutes to go in the game. So that's starting to get down to crunch time there. But Mart, that was shocking. This is probably going to – people in Mart would probably get pissed off with me saying this, but I don't really care. I felt terrible for Rodrill Freeman as he was crying on the field last night. At the same time, though, I was really happy for the other guys too because, Rodrill wanted to complete the sweep 4 for 4, and that would have been awesome. But at the same time, it's like you still have 3 state championship rings. A lot of guys don't even play. And I know that's not, he wasn't being selfish anyway. It's just crushing because you got within like a play of
an extra
winning.
Point that looked like it was no good, and the next thing you know, they're going for 2.
Yeah, 4 in a row. I mean, who does that? And you were within a play of that. And so it was crushing. But, gosh, these Mart seniors are leaving with 3 state championship rings. Most of them are. So, no shame in finally not being able to win the big one. But I know it was obviously very disappointing, very crushing in the way that it happened and unfolded because they looked like they kind of had that maybe in hand or were going to close it out. And all of a sudden there was just this flurry, and it was a great game. But, I did feel for Mart a bit. At the same time, you couldn't help but be excited for the opposite sideline and, just the joy and jubilation that you saw come from those guys.
He was Rodrell Freeman, one of the greatest players in Mart history. They've had a few, no question.
And by the way, can we, as reporters, high school observers, stop asking for the third year in a row why Rodrell Freeman doesn't have more offers? Because I saw that last year at this time. I saw that 2 years ago at this time. I don't know what the answer to it is. I know Texas Tech had apparently offered at one point, but this is 3 years in a row where I've seen every time Mart plays in a state title game of like, how does Rodrell Freeman not have more offers?
Well, there's only been a couple players in their history who've had a bunch of
John Garrett,
Quan
Cosby,
Damian Davis.
Yeah.
I mean, so it does. I mean, part of it is just that, well, they're 2A players, and that's what happens. Look, Rashad Paul didn't have a ton of them, either. A&M came in for him, and now, obviously he's transferred and playing at Arkansas State or Louisiana.
Arkansas
State.
I think it's
Arkansas State. Yeah, he's Arkansas State. And so, that's fine, but, that's why it happens.
Yeah.
That's why.
I mean, I get asking the question, but when it's been 3 years in a row, it's like, well, it's kind of clear. Just there's not that attention, and I do think he's a player. He does have good size, and he's an incredible athlete. But yeah, it seemed like I was having deja vu at times.
It's no different than the Colt McCoy Stevens Shipley, or that Charlie Brewer was never recruited by Texas and his dad played there, right?
Similar.
It's the same thing. It's like they get lazy, and it's the same picture like Sam Ehlinger, who's a fantastic player. But his mother was the only one we ever saw, and there's 25 other seniors on that team. What about their stories, right? Yeah. Even though his was tragic, losing his father at a young age.
Yeah, Craig, I don't really understand it. Why does Rodrell Freeman not have more offers?
I don't know.
When we come back, Paul Catalina on Arizona's coaching search for Kevin Sumlin, no longer there. And then also, Sam Bradshaw breaks down Iowa State, Oklahoma, Big 12 championship game, and his thoughts about the class they signed and players coming back to come out for another year, Ebner and all that. This is SicEm365 Radio.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, the holiday savings event going on right now. Most wonderful time of the year to save big on all remaining 2020 vehicles in stock, plus save on incoming 2021 GMC Sierras. Sierra is a truck with it all, power, first-class seating. It is the best truck on the road, and during Richard Carr's holiday savings event, qualified buyers can unwrap $8,000 off of a 2021 GMC Sierra Text Edition Crew Cab at Richard Carr. Maybe you're looking for a top-of-the-line midsize SUV. Well, how about scoring $7,000 off GMC Terrain, $7,500 off of Buick Envisions? You can test drive both today and save big today at Richard Carr. Get a new 2020 Buick Encore for only $18,950. That's over $5,000 in savings on the top-selling Buick Encore. You can save $3,000 and get 0% financing for 72 months on most Cadillacs in stock, including the XT4, XT5, and XT6. All those deals, touchdown Canadian, by the way, 28-21, 6 minutes left. But all those deals and more available right now during the Richard Carr holiday sales event. And this is pretty special here. This is why Richard Carr is so great, especially when it comes to what they do for the community. They love healthcare workers, military, and first responders. So right now, all of those valuable community heroes will get GM supplier pricing on all cars in stock. And for every car or truck sold now, Richard Carr will donate a new bike to Toys for Tots Waco. So get yourself a great deal and give a deserving kid a bike this Christmas. It's a holiday sales event at Richard Carr. Get there now. Go to richardcarr.com or have them bring the test drive to you. Save big. The holiday sales event at Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jeweler, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
When it comes to hauling the family and hauling cargo, see Alan Samuels. Get the king of minivans, the award-winning Chrysler Pacifica, or America's lowest price third-row crossover, Dodge Journey. During the Big Finish event, get 0%, no payments for 90 days, and employee pricing for all on Pacifica. It's minivan first class. And get employee pricing for all on new 2020 Dodge Journeys. Happy holidays from your friend in the car business, Alan Samuels.
Texas Board Certified Personal Injury Trial Lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recall drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com. Principal office located in Houston, Texas.
This is Paul Catalina's College Football Focus.
A long day for Kevin Sumlin and a shiny result for Arizona State. The Sun Devils 70-7 in the Territorial Cup.
SicEm365 Radio, our college football focus, Arizona. And Michael Lev of the Arizona Daily Star joins us now. And Kevin Sumlin out after they were 0-5 and got absolutely throttled in that last game against Arizona State. First off, Kevin Sumlin had an okay run at Texas A&M before they let him go and moved on to Jimbo Fisher. But where did he go wrong at U of A?
Well, I think a few things. Number one, I'm not sure that it was the right fit, even though it felt at the time like exactly the right fit. I feel like when he was hired, probably 90% of the experts, 90% of the fans, everybody thought it was a great idea. You know, you were pairing the coach who had Johnny Manziel with Khalil Tate. And this is just going to be Johnny Football 2.0. He's going to make a legit run at the Heisman. You know, this is going to be amazing. But he brought with him Noel Mazzoni to be the offensive coordinator. It was never a good fit between Mazzoni and Tate. Remember when Manziel excelled with A&M, Cliff Kingsbury was kind of the guy who pushed that along as the quarterback guru and offensive coordinator. So not a good fit there, number one. Also just not sure that at this point in his career that Kevin Sumlin had the same hunger and desire to prove himself, to put in the work, to be a grinder. That's what's needed at this job. You can probably sort of relate from a market size standpoint to what I'm saying here. I mean, this is not somewhere where you can just kind of show up and rely on your reputation to get guys to come here. You got to do some convincing. You got to make some connections. And those things didn't really happen. And then, they lost a bunch of players this offseason. I'm not sure they would have lost all of those guys if it wasn't for the pandemic, but the roster was really in bad shape, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and they were kind of holding things together with duct tape through the first 4 games, and then it just all fell apart in the last one.
So who are the targets for Arizona? Who do you think is the best fit, or someone who can come in there and accentuate the positives of playing there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they, after sort of not doing this for 20 plus years, I think they are going to go in the direction of someone who has some connection to this place and this school. Doesn't necessarily mean that person had to have played here or is an alum, but has some connection to the good old days, the Dick Tomey days. So the guys who are at the top of the list in that regard are 3 people. One is Brent Brennan, who's the Mountain West Coach of the Year, San Jose State 6-0 for the first time since like 1939 or whatever it is. He worked under Dick Tomey at San Jose State. He was a grad assistant here. His brother played here. He's just got he's the right age, the right temperament, West Coast guy, knows how to build something up from scratch. So that's number 1. Number 2, Joe Salavea, a great defensive lineman here. Back in the day, played in the NFL, currently the defensive line coach at Oregon, great recruiter, recruited a bunch of really good D linemen to Washington State before he took the Oregon job, and has obviously helped to bring in a bunch of really good defensive players to the Ducks. He could help reestablish the pipeline to the Polynesian talent base that has kind of dried up here at Arizona. That was kind of a founding principle of the Dick Tomey era. I mean, he was really big in the islands, and now it's a lot of the rival schools in the Pac-12 that are taking advantage of those connections. He could reestablish that. And then the third guy is someone who was a finalist here last time, and that's Ken Niumatalolo, the coach at Navy, another person with a Polynesian background or connections to the islands. Obviously, another guy who has proven that he can get more out of less. I mean, when you coach at a military academy, you're not getting the cream of the crop in terms of football talent. High character guys, for sure, but the fact that, you have to have a very specific resume and background to get into those places really limits the talent pool. He's won there a lot. A little bit concerning that their performance has fallen off they've got 2 losing seasons out of the last 3, but I don't think that should overshadow his body of work there at the Naval Academy.
What would hinder them from bringing Ken Niumatalolo in? Is it just the offense that he runs?
Well, I mean, things fell apart last time. I mean, we reported that he had been offered a job. I mean, I know for a fact that he thought he was going to be the coach here. And then things kind of fell apart at the end. It's kind of a long story. But, Khalil Tate was, considered a legit Heisman candidate at the time, sent out this tweet about not wanting to run the triple option. Spooked a lot of people, including Ken Niumatalolo. So there's a question of whether that relationship can be repaired, number 1. I think the offense is a little bit of a concern, but I really don't think that he's going to run the exact same option system here when you can get better players. It's something that's it's out of necessity at the Armed Services Academies that you have to run that type of offense. And then, as I said, I think the other issue is, can you sell it? You could sell it really well back in January of 2018, but like I said, 2 losing seasons out of the last 3. It's a little harder to convince everyone that that's the guy when your most recent records look like that.
What do you expect the timetable to be?
I think that they would like to get it done before Christmas. So Christmas is what, a week from Friday. Mm-hmm. So some of the guys that I mentioned, Oregon plays this Friday night in the Pac-12 championship game. So if you wanted to interview Joe Salavea, you can hook up a Zoom call for Saturday. Brent Brennan, San Jose State, they're playing in the Mountain West championship game on Saturday. You can hook up a Zoom call on Sunday. It's sort of an irony of the pandemic that you can actually expedite these interviews and kind of do all that stuff a lot faster. I think that by the middle of next week is the goal for them, that they'd like to have this thing wrapped up so that the new coach can enjoy a few days off for Christmas and then get here to Tucson and get to work.
So signing day tomorrow, I mean, that's pretty much out anyway.
A signing day is just not going to happen. It was a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. They could have waited until after signing day, but that's really kind of duplicitous, right? To deceive the kids in that manner. I think they've had 3 decommitments for 2021 since Saturday, and they've had 2 decommitments for 2022, for whatever that's worth. This week's been at 18 verbals as of now. And there's been a handful of kids too who said, "Hey, I'm signing with Arizona. I don't care who the coach is. This is the school that I want to play for." So, I mean, it's kind of a mess. If the timing is suboptimal, no matter what you do, if they can get a dozen players to sign on Wednesday, I think they'd be doing pretty well. And it's going to be up to the new coaching staff to fill in the rest of the class. And, expectations are not super high for 2021 for this program. I mean, I think we're looking at a long-term kind of rebuild here. But if you give the fan base some hope, if you can connect with them, if you can show them that, this is what the plan is, be patient, stick with us, and kind of give them a product that they can root for, that people are going to be patient around here. They will be willing to wait, kind of like, San Jose State with Brent Brennan. I mean, they won 3 games the first 2 years. Then they won 5. Now they're 6-0. If your expectations are set at the right level, that sort of program can work.
Michael Lev, the Arizona Daily Star, with us here on SicEm365 Radio and our college football focus.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. And this football season, you need to stop by on game day for curbside pickup or stop by their tent next to SicEm365 at Brazos Parking for your pregame refreshment. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Sam Bradshaw of SicEm365.com.
Here we go, wrapping up our last segment. Franklin, with just over a minute left, trying to knock off the favorite in Canadian, game tied at 28 at the 38-yard line, and they do a flea flicker. Franklin's trying to win the game on a flea flicker, and they got a man wide open, touchdown. How about that? For a team that doesn't throw the ball, they just scored with about a minute left to lead Canadian 34-28, extra point to come. We're now joined by Sam Bradshaw, S11 on SicEm365.com, breaking down many X's and O's. Sam, thanks for your time and also your time this week as well. Let's start with some of the news we've seen this week. Trestan Ebner's back. Lovett's gone. Brewer's gone. The quarterback room now with Zeno not sure about Bohannon. Chapin and the incoming Kyron Drones is a guy that likes to look at all those X's and O's. Your thoughts about what it means?
Well, first and foremost, losing Brewer, you kind of expected some kind of change was going to come, just with how much angst there has been about the position among the fan base and things like that, and just how it didn't quite seem to click this year the way it had in prior years. There was always the opportunity the guy was going to take a chance and see if he could find a situation that's a little friendlier to him, given all that's going on. But before he goes, the guy brought him back so many times in 2018. It seemed like every week, whether it was Oklahoma State or whether it was Kansas State or whether it was fighting back to beat Vanderbilt in one of the craziest shootouts you'll ever see. You just see so many times that guy was able to just not only put his body on the line, but just lead the team. He made good decisions. He bought time. He made extra yards with his legs. He was a very good player, and over time, Baylor fans are going to look fondly at his time here, even if it didn't end the way he'd like. But as for the guys they've got coming back, I think those guys athletically fit a little better with what Fedora wants to do. Each of them gives you the ability to run it a little bit. Of course, Bohannon's probably the best in that category, not only just from a size standpoint, but just purely as a runner. That's a guy that if you had to, you could put him in tailback and he wouldn't embarrass himself the way some other quarterbacks might. Zeno's got an incredible arm. Chapin has a really good arm. Drones has a lot of potential. But it's just until you get to see them in college playing, you really don't know what you have. And of the guys that have seen time, if you exclude snaps and mop-up time against Kansas, when you look at when they've been called to replace Brewer on the field due to injury, whether it's against Oklahoma State or Oklahoma or Georgia, you're talking about guys that have completed under 50% of their passes. So at the very least, it's a very big gap on the resume that hopefully it turns out all right, but it's a big unknown right now.
Sam, that can't be possible. I feel like Jacob Zeno's never thrown an incompletion if you read Twitter.
The most popular guy on any campus is always the backup quarterback.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you have a full complement of things. And he had a couple great plays. He hit Ebner up the seam when Oklahoma overran it, and you got an 81-yard touchdown off of that. And then you had a 78-yard play where Chris Platt got run down. But that wasn't a normal drop back. That was faking a bubble screen, Oklahoma biting on the bubble screen, and then nobody's covering Platt until they can run him down 78 yards later. So it's a big to be determined. I wish him the best. I wish any of the guys the best. The guy that I think could sneak up on people is Chapin. He was a guy recruited by this staff who seems to have a pretty accurate ball in the few clips that I've seen of him. He's a shortstop in baseball, and one of the funnier Mike Leach quotes you'll hear is, you can't make a guy accurate. Instead of trying to make a guy that has everything but accuracy at quarterback, oftentimes you're better off just taking a shortstop, which is generally an accurate position in baseball, and teaching him how to play quarterback. Chapin seems like a guy that would have the skill set that Fedora's looking for, so I haven't seen too much of those guys since they signed, and I haven't heard too many things behind the scenes, but it just seems like he would be a guy that could potentially sneak up on people.
Trestan Ebner is coming back, and that's huge for the offense. With the now depth that they might have at running back, and they've seen some things out of Tay McWilliams and Quaylon Jones, would it be better, in your opinion, to maybe let Ebner be more of a receiver than a running back next year?
I think the best thing to use with him is you want him as a running back. Him being able to be a fifth option for you, where you can be in an empty set, you can be in a two-back set, you can be in any number of alignments and formations without substituting. That's some of the value he provides. Because the thing is, the current slot receivers you have right now can take a handoff. That's not too big of a change for him. I mean, you saw him do it with Fleeks at times this year. But the thing with Ebner, if you have a guy that can improve his pass blocking, but can also be a viable receiver out of the backfield and lower his shoulder and run, that's immensely valuable. You can pair him with a Quaylon Jones or a Tay McWilliams or a Jonah White or whoever else happens to be in there for some two-back sets, give yourself a couple different looks. But you want to take advantage of that versatility. And I think if you're putting him as a base receiver, I don't think you're getting as much out of that as you otherwise would.
Sam, what do you think about Xavier Newman coming back? What does that mean for the O-line?
I am all for any of the offensive linemen that want to come back, coming back, because a lot of these guys, the issue is time in the weight room, whether they're young or whether COVID issues kept them out of the weight room for a while, so they've got to build back to where they were. Regardless of what it is, this offensive line had its struggles, and I don't think an off-season is going to cure all of it, but the last thing you want to do is start running out of bodies because the guys moved on. And I think Xavier Newman's an experienced player. He's a guy that's seen a lot of battles, and he at least provides you a decent piece to plug in there at a number of spots on the line. He can play center, he can play guard. He gives you some versatility up front that should be able to help you. And, this offense needs to have continuity on the offensive line, not having a spring, having practices completely interrupted twice during the fall and playing a game without your offensive staff. You need all the consistency, all the experience you can get at this point. So getting him back is a big shot in the arm.
How much have you already asked Dartmouth for video and film of Drew Estrada and how much he can bring to the table?
Estrada seems very productive. Of a few clips that I've seen of him, he doesn't seem to be a pure burner the way that like a Josh Fleeks would be, but he's quick. He can get open, almost like a smaller Jalen Hurd, where his lateral quickness is probably more impressive than his straight line quickness, but good route runner, good hands, can make some contested catches. He's a guy that should add a lot to the offense. And I know that he reminds me a lot of some of the guys I saw on film when I was previewing Fedora. He should be a good fit, and I think it'll be a good fit for both sides.
So Raleigh Tejada might be coming back, and you've got Kalen Barnes, who I don't think there's really a question about him coming back at this point. At least I haven't heard or seen any kind of conversation around him. But, we saw Mark Milton had a rough go of things at times. The secondary is not the deepest unit, Sam, either at corner or at safety. So what do you think about Raleigh Tejada potentially leaning towards coming back and what that would mean?
Huge. absolutely huge. I mean, you got a taste for how thin the depth was against Oklahoma State because you had to basically play Zeke Brown, who, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he was playing safety for a good portion of the season. He was your corner opposite Tejada, which forced Baylor into some zone looks that Oklahoma State was able to just feast on because they knew where you were going to be and they figured out ways to run away from it. You know, that created some issues on top of some blown coverages by the safeties, but we don't have to get into that right now. You know, you got a pretty good 3-man rotation at corner that you can do a lot with. You return your safeties. The defense returns a lot from a unit that was much better than anybody expected coming in and was one of the better units you've seen over the last few years at Baylor, which is saying something considering all the COVID issues. You didn't have Gabe Hall. Chidi Obanaya and Rob Stalin were slow to come back from early season missing. And then you were basically having to play TJ Franklin, who you wanted as a field end. You wanted him to kind of be outside a little more. You had to play him at tackle. And then you had to play William Bradley King, who you'd like to keep on the edge as like a jack linebacker. He had to be your field end, which meant he had to play inside the shoulder of the tackle a fair percentage of the time, anytime you felt like you needed a tight front or something else to try and slow down certain blocking schemes. So getting back to some of the personnel types that Aranda wants to run on defense and Roberts wants to run on defense, getting back to what you thought you had coming into the year with Franklin back at end and a little more beef inside, that should only help this defense because you can always slide a guy back inside and when you want to go to more of a peso look. But it's hard to make up for size when you don't have the depth or the size that you had before. And the fact that defense was so strong in spite of that makes me really encouraged for next year. And getting Tejada back is a huge part of continuing that success until they get some more depth behind him.
So, sorry, go ahead, Paul.
The Big 12 title game, Sam, did you ask about that earlier?
No.
Okay. Big 12 title game before we're done, we talked about it on the thing. We're on the
I know. I thought you were listening to us.
Yeah.
He is. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, you give me these weird looks. No, the Big 12 title game, how different is it now than the first time they played?
Well, there's a couple trends with these teams that have stuck out to me. In Oklahoma's 2 losses against Kansas State and Iowa State, which, remember, were back-to-back, around 1/5 of every drop back, every pass attempt or sack that Oklahoma had on defense went for 20-plus yards on them. Since then, nobody has hit a high percentage of explosive passes against that defense. They have turned the corner on that, and they're turning the ball over far less than they were early in the year. So I think Oklahoma's peaking at the right time, but I do worry about them with COVID keeping a ton of guys out against Baylor having a really good defensive game plan against them that I think Iowa State is absolutely pouring over that film. And you just worry about, with all the issues you've had in COVID and all the coaches that have been out, are they fully over that, or have guys been out? How much practice have guys missed? You know, that's an unknown. On the Iowa State side, their defense is a lot more average this year than it has been in prior years. And I think they're going to struggle to stop Oklahoma. But over the last month, Iowa State's offense has been on the tear. Like the last 2-3 games, they've been averaging around 50 yards a drive, which is just absurd because Texas and West Virginia aren't bad defensively. They're not bad at all. And to do that to them, that's putting the ball down the field a fair amount. And Oklahoma's probably got the better defense of the two. But you know, it's a tough one to predict. I tend to favor the loser of round 1 in a rematch, and I think that'll probably bear itself out. I think Oklahoma will get them, but I don't feel confident picking either team in this one.
Yeah, you wouldn't know Oklahoma had a good defense based on the All Big 12 awards. My gosh, just completely shut out on those. But Iowa State, TCU having a lot of representation. My last question I had for you, Sam, was William Bradley King making his announcement. Do they have somebody that you see fitting into the role that he was filling, or is that something that'll probably change in this offseason? Like, how do you view his departure?
Well, I view his departure as he's a really productive player that can play field end or could play jack for you, but he basically didn't play jack all year. He had to go to field end because you lost guys on the interior, and then you slid Franklin inside. Getting some of those interior guys back or adding guys through grad transfers in recruiting, I think you'll see Franklin go back to field end, and then your jack linebacker, you still got Logan, you still got Brown, you still got Obi, still got Matt Jones. You've got a lot of guys that can fill that role for you.
Sam, it's been a pleasure. And maybe we can call you up every once in a while, and I'll give you a heads up. I'd love for you to break down some things as they go, as we see if anyone else comes and goes, and newcomers, and maybe some transfers that we get as far as the stories. We appreciate your time and love the breakdown each week. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. SicEm365's Sam Bradshaw, S11 on Twitter, also at S11, SicEm365.com. A gut-wrenching loss for Franklin.
And they got hosed.
How?
On the touchdown that Canadian scored, there was an illegal. I just saw a tweet, Matt Stepp replayed it. They were coming across, illegal the motion guy started to turn up field.
Yeah, he turned up slightly.
It was
no
illegal
question.
motion.
Yeah, he was leaning kind of, not quite Canadian Football League by any means, but he was kind of leaning, and he wasn't the one who caught it, but that could have affected the coverage a little bit. But the extra point you miss.
You missed an extra point. And as soon as he did that, I was like, uh-oh. And even though there was only a minute left, like all it takes is one play, right? And that's what Canadian did. And, yeah, I mean, they got the ball back with slightly over a minute, and Franklin had missed that extra point, and they lose by one as a result of an extra point. And I feel terrible for that kid. I feel terrible for the Lions because they had that one. They had that wrapped up. They were a minute away, literally a minute away from a state championship. And,
they did the pooch kick on the ensuing kickoff. I've never been a fan of that when you're up only by what is less than a 7 or 6 or 3. They did the pooch kick, so Canadian takes over at their 40.
It was not a pooch kick. It was a duff.
That's worse.
He slipped and his foot went under the ball.
I hate it even worse because he's also perhaps, I don't know, maybe.
I don't like pooch kicks in general anyways because it's free field position.
There was a time when that, I
mean, I understand if you're trying to avoid a certain guy, like if Trestan Ebner, Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Year, sitting back there, you don't want to kick it to him, but sacrificing an automatic 15 yards versus what he might do.
Maybe 30,
or maybe 30, because some of those pooch kicks we see, it's like teams start off at the 40-yard line. It's like, what good does that do?
Early in Art Briles' career at Baylor, it killed them. It absolutely killed them several times.
You know who wishes they would have pooch kicked? Plano East back in 1994 against John Tyler. That's one of the examples. But the problem is you're up 6, but if you give a kickoff return back, okay, I understand you get second guess, but golly.
But no time runs off.
Yeah. Here's the thing, especially with not much time left. Those maybe need a couple of extra plays. Who knows what happens? But Canadian wins it in a thriller, 35-34. Franklin missed an extra point after they scored. And then Canadian scored, I think, on their second or third play from scrimmage and went about 60 yards in a very short amount of time and then kicked the extra point. So think about this. Mart looked like they won a state title when Windthorst missed an extra point. Then they were offsides against Mart. They go for 2 and make it. And then here you have an extra point that's missed. Canadian then goes down and scores. The ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of high school football can be flat out amazing. Flat out amazing.
Yeah, that's 2 pretty fun games to see over the last 16 hours or whatever. Or no, much more than that, but the last 24 hours. That's 2 pretty good ball games.
No question about it. All right, thanks to a lot of our guests. Thanks to Drew Estrada, the Dartmouth transfer from Argyle, who signed with Baylor. Thanks to T.R. Sullivan. So many trips down memory lane with him, the Hall of Fame writer who's retiring. Mickey Spagnola on the Cowboys. Sam Tecklenburg from his perspective on the practice squad with Carolina and also what he's seen with Baylor. Some last-second comments that he had about Charlie Brewer. Also, Gary Joe Kenny, Baylor linebacker, Hall of Fame linebacker for Baylor. And of course, now a part of the the La Vega staff. Michael Lev from Arizona Daily Star on the Arizona coaching search following Kevin Sumlin being dismissed and Sam Bradshaw as well. So earlier today, Shiner beat, post 42-20, and Canadian knocks off Franklin 35-34. That's a final. Unbelievable games today already in Texas high school football. For Paul Catalina, Tyler Boldman, great to have you. Also, Craig Smoak. We got some other guests along with the normals tomorrow. We'll have that up later on the site. Thank you for listening and watching whenever you do. Good night on SicEm365 Radio.
Learning to navigate life in the COVID-19 world has been a struggle, and where and how to get tested has been one of the biggest challenges. Impact Health Labs has your answer. If you need mass testing for your office, church, dormitory, or school, Impact Health Labs is who to call. They will come to you, conduct the testing at your location, and have the test back within 24 hours. Most major insurance accepted, meaning your out-of-pocket cost is low. So no more waiting by the phone for days to find out the results. Impact Health Labs was founded by 3 Army radiologists. They believe in accuracy, efficiency, and doing the job right. Call 254-744-6233 to set up your group screening today. Impact Health Labs, on-site, prompt, and accurate, taking COVID-19 head-on. Again, that number is 254-744-6233.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has been proudly serving Texans across the state for over 60 years. Call 254-772-8090 to find an agent who will provide a free review of your auto, home, and life coverage.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.